Chapter 422. Chapter 186. Incredibly Rich Task Rewards Extra for 2200 Monthly Tickets /3. Back in his room, Luya closed the door and placed senior sister Ruyu on the bed. Although Jian Ruyu was usually quite bold, her pretty face was now flushed, her eyes were darting around, and she dared not meet Luya's gaze. Luyi was a bit puzzled and asked, "By the way, senior sister Ruyu, what made you suddenly want to engage in dual cultivation with me?" Jian Ruyu said, exasperated, "Isn't it because of Yunzai?" Yunzai? Luya was a bit confused. Jian Ruyu looked at Luyi with a deep gaze and said, "Yunzai told me to help her, saying that you are very powerful and hoped that I could share the burden with her." At this, Jian Ruyu curiously asked, "By the way, little brother, why did Yunzai say that she always faints afterwards?" Upon hearing this, the corners of Luya's mouth twitched, then lifted into a wicked smile. "You'll know soon enough." With that, Luya leaned in and silenced Jian Ruyu's red lips, which were about to speak again. Soon, a painful grunt sounded, and the room echoed with the chorus of dragons and phoenixes, along with a variety of phenomena and embarrassingly strange noises. Since only Yunzai was outside, Luya didn't waste his energy setting up a concealment array. In the main hall, Yunzai, with a slightly red face, could not help crossing her legs tightly as she felt a warmth spread through her body. She then exhaled in relief and revealed a happy smile. "I hope senior sister Ruyu can hold on for a while longer." Afterwards, Yunzai returned to her room and began to cultivate. Time passed, and 3 days later, Jian Ruyu finally understood what Yunzai meant by saying Luyu was too powerful. Another 3 days later, before fainting, Jian Ruyu also finally understood why Yunzai said she always faints and why she sought her help. Who could withstand this? Luya didn't leave, but held the fainted Jian Ruyu as he rested. He began to check his task rewards with great pleasure. A Sword Origin Tree Seed. The Sword Origin Tree is an immortal level treasure tree that only matures after millions of years. It grows imbued with the essence of the Sword Tao, and even has the Sword Tao law circulating within it. When mature, the Sword Origin Tree will bear Sword Origin fruits, which are extremely precious immortal fruits, surpassing even the Sword Heart fruit. Just by consuming one Sword Origin fruit, even a novice who has just entered the path of immortality can gain a very powerful understanding of the Sword Tao. If they have decent comprehension, they can at least reach the great success level of the Sword Domain, and if their talent is strong enough, they might even comprehend a thread of Sword Tao law directly. This is merely the effect of a single Sword Origin fruit. If one has enough, they can even deepen their comprehension of the Sword Tao law tremendously. It can be said that as long as one guards a Sword Origin tree and lives long enough, they will definitely become an extremely powerful sword immortal. Luyi was incredulous, not expecting the first reward to be so generous. Although it is just a seed, with the nourishment of various spirit marrows and spirit jades, plus Luyi's own power of nature to nurture it, it is certain that the growth time of the Sword Origin fruits can be significantly shortened. By then, perhaps Luyi could use it to enhance his understanding of the Sword Tao law. However, it would be even better if he had a specific art for nurturing immortal trees, which would definitely save more time. Luyi mused to himself. He stored away the Sword Origin tree seed, and then began to look at the other task rewards. The Immortal Scripture, 9 Heavens Sword Immortal Treasure Book, as an immortal scripture, is naturally an extremely precious treasure. After receiving the Immortal Scripture, Luyi examined it and felt that this cultivation technique was profound, embodying the conception of the 9 heavens. With each breakthrough, one shatters one layer heaven, breaks one layer of taboo, and undergoes a transformation. While it differed from the Immortal Sword Scripture, as an immortal scripture, it was not inferior to the Immortal Sword Scripture. Luyi planned to thoroughly comprehend this Immortal Scripture later. Perhaps he could fuse it with the 9 Heavens Sword Immortal Treasure Book, combining their strengths to comprehend an even more powerful and suitable immortal scripture for himself. If other cultivators knew of Luyi's thoughts, they would undoubtedly dismiss them or even laugh. A cave void cultivator, actually contemplating the fusion of immortal scriptures to deduce an immortal scripture of his own. But Luyi did not hold any conceited thoughts in his heart. After all, he had already been deducing a body-refining immortal scripture suitable for himself. Adding a Qi cultivation, immortal scripture would make no difference. However, that was a matter for the future. Lu Yi began to examine the other task rewards. The Immortal technique, star cutting. Lu Yi checked and found it to be a rather powerful immortal sword skill. According to the introduction of the Immortal technique, if cultivated to perfection, it possesses an extreme offensive power capable of slicing through a star with a single sword strike. Lu Yi, feeling agitated, was incredibly astounded. To extinguish a star with a single sword strike, what kind of might was this? Lu Yi found it hard to imagine. Even for a tribulation-crossing practitioner, the idea of slicing a star was nothing more than a fool's dream. Only immortal-level power could achieve this, right? This immortal technique was too profound, and after only checking a little, Lu Yi felt it was deeply esoteric and obscure. Cultivation of it would likely require a great deal of time. But Lu Yi didn't mind. He had plenty of time, and mastering even a bit of this immortal technique would be a trump card for him. The final task reward was 10% of the Sword Tao Law. This was probably the most suitable reward for Lu Yi at this stage. After all, he could comprehend the Sword Tao Law right now, use it right away, and it would significantly improve his combat strength. Mastering 10% of the Sword Tao Law would considerably increase Lu Yi's combat power. Not to mention anything else, he should, at the very least, be able to easily kill someone like Mo Ming, a great Mahayana cultivator. Lu Yi glanced at Jian Ruyu, still asleep, thought for a moment, and decided it was better not to disturb her and wait a little longer to comprehend. With that thought, Lu Yi held Jian Ruyu in his arms and closed his eyes to rest. As an immortal body, Jian Ruyu, too, was a cave void cultivator, with an extremely strong physical body and formidable recovery abilities, woke from her slumber after a day. She opened her eyes, her gaze somewhat vacant, and murmured to herself, "Am I dead?" Lu Yi. He was utterly bewildered. What the heck? Lu Yi laughed and said, "What is senior sister Ruyu thinking about? Of course, you're still alive." It was only then that Jian Ruyu fully woke up. Noticing that Lu Yi was holding her, she blushed slightly, and then, remembering the dual cultivation from before, couldn't help but tremble slightly, as if the addicting yet frightening sensation had not yet faded away. She bit her lip and glared at Lu Yi, speaking softly. "I finally understand why Yunzai behaved the way she did before." Lu Yi coughed and said earnestly, "If senior sister Ruyu finds it too much to bear, we can pull her in to share the burden." Upon hearing this, Jian Ruyu thought of a certain image. Her face turned crimson and she glared at Lu Yi. "Bad junior brother." I'll update first and revise later. Chapter 423, 187, Truly Mastering the Power of Laws. Chapter 423, Chapter 187, Truly Mastering the Power of Laws. Sister Jian Ruyu blushed at the thought of that scene, let alone actually doing it. She refused on the spot. "Don't even think about it. There's no way I would be with Yunzai." Seeing Jian Ruyu's refusal, Lu Yi didn't dwell on the topic. Holding her delicate body, he smiled, "Rest a bit longer." Then Jian Ruyu felt something, her body stiffened, and she looked up at Lu Yi with a resentful gaze. "Junior brother, I can't take it anymore." Lu Yi immediately felt awkward. It's a natural reaction otherwise. "No, go find Yunzai." Jian Ruyu's pretty face turned bright red as she pushed Lu Yi away and urged him to leave quickly. Lu Yi, pushed off the bed by Jian Ruyu, got up with a look of helplessness on his face. Seeing Jian Ruyu's determination, he could only say, "Then you rest well, senior sister Ruyu." Jian Ruyu buried herself in the blankets and hummed discontentedly. After leaving the room, Lu Yi glanced at the empty hall. He came to Yunzai's room door and called out, "Yunzai." Soon the door opened and Yunzai stepped out. Seeing Lu Yi, she was somewhat surprised. "Lu Yi, how come you're out? What about sister Ruyu?" Lu Yi smiled. "Senior sister Ruyu couldn't handle it anymore. She told me to find you." Yunzai suddenly froze. "What, already? Didn't sister Ruyu say she was strong?" Jian Ruyu, inside her room, nearly fainted from embarrassment upon hearing this. Lu Yi helplessly smiled. "That's something you'll have to discuss with senior sister Ruyu." Saying that, Lu Yi took Yunzai back to the room. 7 days later, Lu Yi walked out of Yunzai's room, feeling the improvement in his cultivation base and smacking his lips in contentment. Dual cultivation is truly wonderful. Lu Yi glanced towards Sister Ruyu's room subconsciously. He walked over and knocked on her door. "Senior Sister Ruyu, have you rested well?" The Jian Ruyu, inside cultivating, upon hearing Lu Yi's voice, tensed up and nearly deviated. Her eyes widened and she quickly spoke out. "Junior brother, The dragon roar phoenix chirp technique is incredibly exquisite. I've had some insights and plan to enter seclusion. Lu Yi, upon hearing the voice from the room, felt a tinge of regret. However, since senior sister Ruyu had gained some insights, Lu Yi naturally couldn't just think of himself. He sighed helplessly. All right then. It was a good opportunity for him to absorb the insights from dual cultivation, and incidentally to comprehend that 10% of the sword Tao law as well. Lu Yi returned to his own cultivation room to begin cultivation. The insights brought by dual cultivation were extremely potent. After absorbing them, Lu Yi's sword Tao domain and natural domain surged once again. The sword Tao domain had advanced to over 70%, almost reaching 80%, and the power of nature had risen to a similar degree. The anomaly caused during comprehension was vast, extending out of the cultivation room and waking both Jian Ruyu, who was cultivating, and Yun Zai, who was still resting. Both of them found it hard to believe. Lu Yi's rate of improvement was too rapid, and even with their immortal bodies, they couldn't compare at all. After absorbing both sets of insights, Lu Yi began to assimilate the 10% of Sword Dao law. It was a sword light condensed from the very essence of Sword Dao. The sword light seemed to project from the limitless void, materializing in Lu Yi's mind. The Tao sound within Lu Yi chanted, and the Tao Yun flowed, making him feel as though heaven and earth itself had transformed. It was as if all of creation were within Lu Yi's grasp. This sensation was different from comprehending a domain. Comprehending a domain is essentially achieving heavenly unity, leveraging heaven and earth with oneself as a fulcrum, guiding the power of heaven and earth with one's spiritual energy to form one small world. That is what a domain is. But the law is different, representing a more potent force. Where the conception is an embodiment of the power of heaven and earth, the law signifies the power's essence itself. Mastering the law equates to mastering the power of heaven and earth. A cultivator wields heaven and earth for their use. Wherever their gaze falls, every area becomes their world, their domain, yet it is even more powerful than a domain. With mastery over the law, a turn of the hand can summon storms or quell them, and suppress any opposition within a single thought. This power towers above heaven and earth. Lu Yi felt as though all of heaven and earth lay beneath his feet. Amidst his comprehension, within the cultivation room, the heaven and earth around Lu Yi vibrated. His domain was etched with sword Tao patterns, immeasurably profound and exceptionally sharp. The forces of other Taos were pushed out, scarce on the outside, as if the whole heaven and earth contained only the sword Tao. And seated in the heart of the cultivation room, Lu Yi became the sovereign of this piece of heaven and earth, the sovereign of the sword Tao. Having been previously startled by Lu Yi absorbing the insights, Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai had left their rooms and gathered in the hall. They watched with shocked expressions, fixated on the room where Lu Yi was cultivating, sensing a formidable power slowly awakening. What is this? Yun Zai's ethereal, immortal-like orbs carried a hint of palpitations, utterly astonished. Jian Ruyu was even more dumbfounded, disbelief plastered across her face. It's the sword Tao. A domain, such a powerful sword domain. What level of comprehension is that? Yun Zai was profoundly shaken. No, this is definitely not a sword domain. Even the strongest sword domain couldn't be this powerful. Jian Ruyu shook her head vigorously, shocked. Her eyes shone with disbelief as she declared, "This is the essence of the sword Tao, the power of the law." Yun Zai's eyes widened, her mouth agape. The sword Tao law. Sister Ruyu, are you saying that Lu Yi has mastered the sword Tao law? Chapter 424, 187, Truly Mastering the Power of Laws 2. Chapter 424, Chapter 187, Truly Mastering the Power of Laws /2. Jian Ruyu's expression was solemn as she nodded emphatically. It must be a law. Only a law could possess such formidable power. But Lu Yi is only at the cave void realm to have grasped a law at the cave void realm. Can anyone really achieve that? Even when it came to Lu Yi, Yun Zai found it somewhat hard to believe. Just like Yun Zai, Jian Ruyu found it hard to believe as well, saying, "But the fact is right before our eyes." Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai fell silent, then exchanged a look, seeing both surprise and pride in each other's eyes. Yun Zai's smile was radiant, worthy of being Lu Yi. Junior brother is too amazing. He has grasped a law now, which is a power that only immortals could wield. He will definitely become even stronger in the future. Jian Ruyu was full of anticipation. Lu Yi was her Taoist couple, and they had just completed their dual cultivation. Seeing her own Taoist couple become so powerful, even a woman like Jian Ruyu was thrilled. The anomaly from comprehending the sword Tao law was incredibly powerful. Waves of sword light surged within the cave mansion, even bursting forth from the mountain peak, lingering between heaven and earth. Fortunately, Lu Yi had previously constructed a great array strong enough to conceal the anomaly caused by Liu Ningxuang's transformation into an immortal body, preventing the anomaly from leaking outside. Looking into the anomaly's mysterious sword Dao, Jian Ruyu was momentarily lost in thought before she too experienced a sudden enlightenment, sitting cross-legged to contemplate an even more powerful sword Dao. Even Yunzai, who did not practice the sword Dao, had an excellent natural comprehension. Upon witnessing the comprehension of the sword Tao law, she even gained some understanding of the sword Dao and perceived a trace of sword intent. Yunzai was somewhat speechless inside, thinking how she never intended to comprehend these things, yet following Lu Yi, she had somehow grasped both the water intent realm and sword intent. The comprehension lasted for quite some time before gradually subsiding. In the cultivation room, the sword shadows formed by the Tao patterns of sword Dao around Lu Yi slowly dissipated. Sitting cross-legged, his aura was light and ethereal like an immortal, and his handsome face bore a hint of the mysterious Tao light. This was the scene that remained after the dispersion of the power of laws had not yet entirely faded. Shortly after, the Tao light also disappeared, and Lu Yi slowly opened his eyes, which revealed an unfathomably mysterious pattern of the sword Dao. Once the Tao patterns vanished, Lu Yi's eyes returned to their deep black color, and the aura that was like that of an immortal dissipated, reverting to that of an ordinary person. Lu Yi was incredibly ecstatic inside, as this 10% of the sword Tao law was immensely powerful. It not only brought his sword Tao domain to perfection, but also started his comprehension of the sword Tao laws directly. This meant that Lu Yi had truly brought his sword domain to perfection, and from now on, any enhancement of his sword Dao would need the comprehension of the power of laws. At this moment, Lu Yi truly mastered a law, not just a strand of the power of laws like before. His sword Tao law had reached close to 10% completion, and his combat power was worlds apart from what it had been before. He had grown much stronger. Lu Yi's smile was brimming with brilliance. It's just uncertain how he now compares to even more powerful great Mahayana cultivators, or perhaps tribulation-crossing ancestors, who might be stronger. Without a proper understanding of how powerful a tribulation-crossing ancestor was, Lu Yi could not conjecture. However, he knew that with his current strength, if he faced that great Mahayana fifth-layer black water flood dragon Mo Ming, he would only need a single sword strike to defeat him. Lu Yi let out a breath of turbid air, stretched lazily, and then exited the cultivation room. In the hall, both Yunzai and Jian Ruyu were present. Jian Ruyu was sensing with her eyes closed, surrounded by a strong sword intent, and her unfathomably mysterious sword Tao domain continued to expand. Feeling somewhat surprised, Lu Yi then realized that it was likely due to the anomaly caused by his own comprehension that senior sister Ruyu had gained some insight. At that moment, Yunzai looked at Lu Yi curiously and asked, "Lu Yi, Sister Ruyu said you've mastered the sword Tao law, is it true?" Lu Yi smiled and nodded, Yunzai immediately burst into laughter. "That's fantastic." Seeing Yunzai happy, Lu Yi also smiled. Just then Jian Ruyu's sword Tao domain also began to slowly subside, and she opened her eyes slowly, her eyes shining with delight. Lu Yi said with a smile, "Senior Sister Ruyu, congratulations. It seems your sword domain has improved a lot." Jian Ruyu stood up, happily saying, "Yes, it has improved to about 92%. Witnessing the transformation of the sword Tao law has helped me tremendously. There might be further improvements, thanks to you, junior brother. It's also because of your own astonishing talent, senior sister. Not everyone could have understood as much." Hearing this, Jian Ruyu looked at him with a touch of coquetry. "No matter how astonishing, it can't compare to you." Her eyes flickered with amazement. "How many days has it been? Your sword domain has advanced from around 60% to the sword Tao law now. Are you even human? Junior brother, you're simply a monster." Lu Yi felt awkward, his face filled with helpless lines. "Why am I a monster? It was just a fortunate insight, that's all." When ordinary people have insights, can they directly comprehend a law? Even Yunzai nodded and added, "Lu Yi, your talent is indeed enough to make all cultivators despair, just like a monster." Seeing them both say this, Lu Yi's face was again streaked with lines as he laughed sarcastically. You both talk about your Taoist couple like this. There should be a punishment for that. At his words, both Jian Ruyu and Yunzai were startled, looking at Lu Yi. Chapter 425, 187, Truly Mastering the Power of Laws 3. Chapter 425, Chapter 187, Truly Mastering the Power of Laws /3. What are you trying to do? Jian Ruyu was on alert. I'm telling you not to mess around. Lu Yi, go find Sister Ruyu. I haven't recovered yet, Yunzai spoke up. Jian Ruyu. She looked at Yunzai with disbelief. Was this woman really betraying her? Shouldn't they be on the same side right now? Lu Yi revealed a villainous smile and sneered repeatedly. Too late. Neither of you can escape today. Without seeing Lu Yi make any move, Yunzai and Jian Ruyu felt their bodies completely immobilized, as if trapped and suppressed by the heavens and earth. Their eyes widened in shock. Jian Ruyu exclaimed, Sword Tao Law. Spiritual energy circulated around them aimlessly, useless in thought, and despite their power at the unification realm, they were like ants trying to shake a tree, utterly unable to break free from the suppression of the law. Lu Yi walked on with a full smile, leading the two towards the room. Jian Ruyu and Yunzai thought of the same thing. Their complexions changed, both feeling a bit scared. They would have no issue with dual cultivation on their own, but the two of them together, they had never even considered it. Jian Ruyu pleaded for mercy. Junior brother, I was wrong. I shouldn't have called you a monster. Just let your senior sister go, okay? Yunzai continued to play the victim. Lu Yi, I haven't rested well yet. You go find Sister Ruyu. Yunzai. Jian Ruyu wished she could bite Yunzai to death. Naturally, Lu Yi wouldn't let them go. He just wanted an excuse to get them together in the first place. He laughed. It's too late to apologize now. Lu Yi led the two into the room and closed the door. Soon, the sound of dragons and phoenixes emanated from the room. 10 days later, Lu Yi, somewhat reluctantly, walked out of the room. It had to be said, with Jian Ruyu and Yunzai, he was indeed able to sustain for longer, which is definitely better than being alone. But even so, the two of them still couldn't last for very long. Ultimately exhausted to the extreme, they fell into a deep sleep. However, with the two of them, the speed of cultivation was a bit faster. After all, when dual cultivating alone, they always needed to rest and recover in between, but with two, they could take turns without the need for breaks. Lu Yi's cultivation speed had also increased compared to before. Feeling the surge of spiritual energy within, he was very satisfied. Dual cultivation is truly wonderful. With this pace, he should be able to advance to the 3rd level of Cave Void very soon. Afterward, Lu Yi went to the cultivation room to start practicing the cultivation techniques and arts. 2 days later, Yunzai and Jian Ruyu finally recovered, neither of them showing a good face to Lu Yi. After all, it was too embarrassing. All because Lu Yi insisted on pulling the two of them together. But Lu Yi had thick skin and didn't care at all. In the following days, Lu Yi's life settled down. Every day he was either dual cultivating with Yunzai and Jian Ruyu or sparring with them to obtain sparring rewards. The 10,000-year spirit Jade earned from task rewards, Lu Yi used it all for cultivation, speeding up his progress immensely. Besides, Lu Yi focused on the small deduction skill, intending to comprehend it to the extreme level during his senior sister's retreat. The small deduction skill is an extremely powerful secret technique, very mysterious. Lu Yi often drank enlightenment tea, his comprehension reaching unimaginable heights. Additionally, his Tao Mi was completely condensed by Tao, making his comprehension speed for various Taoist secret skills extremely exaggerated. Nevertheless, Lu Yi spent every day in comprehension, also using tasks for cultivation, and it still took him a full 5 years to comprehend the small deduction skill to the extreme level. When Lu Yi upgraded the small deduction skill to the extreme level, it seemed as if he could feel some kind of unseen, untouchable thing. This thing pervaded endless space and flowed through the long river of time. It was omnipresent, infusing all things, weaving everything in the universe together. Although Lu Yi could only vaguely sense it, he had his suspicions. This mysterious force was named fate. The fate of all matters, the fate of heaven and earth throughout time, everything was encompassed within it, mysterious and indefinable. The small deduction skill might have some connection to the fate skill itself. Lu Yi thought of his master, who was rumored to cultivate using fate skill. He was immensely shocked. Just the fate and consequences involved in the small deduction skill felt so mysterious. How powerful could the true fate skill be? Although Lu Yi had now cultivated the small deduction skill to the extreme level, his own limited strength meant that what he could deduce was also limited. He couldn't deduce anything too far beyond his own capabilities, or else he would be at great risk of backlash. Fortunately, Lu Yi did not intend to deduce anything like an immortal. He merely planned to deduce the location of Mist Island. Although it related to immortals, it certainly wasn't the same as directly deducing an immortal's affairs. On the day that Lu Yi cultivated the small deduction skill to the extreme level, he attempted to deduce the location of Mist Island. Inside the cultivation room, Lu Yi sat cross-legged, his eyes shimmering with indefinable mysterious light. His nascent soul stimulated Tao sound, and Tao Yun suffused the room, a profound mystical force spreading throughout. This was the power of fate, and Lu Yi, leveraging the small deduction skill, had nudged the corner of destiny. He formed spell gestures with his hands and began to deduce the location of Mist Island. To deduce the whereabouts of something, one needs a certain understanding of it. From Jiang Fan and his fellow disciples, Lu Yi had heard quite a bit about Mist Island. Although his knowledge was not vast, it just barely met the conditions for deduction. As Lu Yi fully activated the small deduction skill, a frightening pressure radiated out. Yun Zai and Jian Ruyu, who were in the midst of cultivation, left their rooms and came to the hall. The two exchanged glances, numb to the phenomenon. What incredible thing is this abnormal junior brother comprehending now? Jian Ruyu was filled with question marks in her head. Ever since Lu Yi forcefully dragged her and Yun Zai into dual cultivation, Jian Ruyu had changed the way she addressed Lu Yi. Lu Yi's behavior was just too abnormal. To this, Lu Yi earnestly retorted, "What man isn't abnormal?" This title was problematic in the first place. Unfortunately, Jian Ruyu didn't listen. Even after being dealt with by Lu Yi several times, she refused to change. Yun Zai initially called Lu Yi abnormal along with Jian Ruyu, but after being disciplined a few times, she couldn't stand it and quickly changed her tune. Yun Zai too shook her head. Such a mysterious power, it seems much more profound than the general Tao. Is Lu Yi comprehending another powerful secret technique? The two had grown accustomed to Lu Yi's extraordinary performances. At this moment, inside the cultivation room, Lu Yi was surrounded by mysterious Tao light circulating around him. Moments later, he opened his eyes, a streak of light flashing in them, and he coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood. However, a smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. Although he hadn't precisely deduced the location of Mist Island, he had roughly found the direction. Chapter 426, 188, 15 years later. Chapter 426, Chapter 188, 15 years later. The direction of Mist Island was in the southeastern area. Because Lu Yi's strength was limited and the distance from Mist Island was too great, he could only deduce a rough direction. However, Lu Yi believed that, as he got closer to Mist Island, the deduced direction would definitely become more accurate. By then, it wouldn't be hard to find Mist Island. With this understanding, Lu Yi also breathed a sigh of relief. Since Liu Ningxuang's retreat had not yet ended, Lu Yi continued to perceive other magic skills and cultivation techniques. Of course, he did not forget about dual cultivation. Because dual cultivation was speeding up, Lu Yi's cultivation progressed significantly, and he had been using the 10,000-year spirit Jade. In just 5 years, Lu Yi had advanced 3 realms, reaching the 5th level of Cave Void. Dual cultivation greatly enhanced Lu Yi's progress, but it had an even greater impact on Yun Zai and Jian Ruyu, especially since Lu Yi's cultivation technique had reached the extreme level. Once activated, the efficiency of absorbing spiritual energy was surely not slow. However, since the duration of dual cultivation for the two of them was shorter compared to Lu Yi, their cultivation speeds were somewhat similar. Additionally, as they were also using 10,000-year spirit Jade, over these 5 years, their progress was extremely fast. Yun Zai had advanced to the 4th level of Cave Void, while Jian Ruyu had advanced to the 7th level of Cave Void. Moreover, the dual cultivation technique had also improved their domains, significantly enhancing their strength. With the improvement of their strength, Lu Yi's practice tasks naturally increased greatly, bringing him more and more rewards. This was a positive cycle. In 5 years, Lu Yi's natural domain reached 90%, not far from perfection. As for the sword Dao, since Lu Yi had truly reached the law realm, the enhancements from the rewards of each practice were relatively minimal. Over 5 years, his sword Tao Law had only improved a little. There was no helping it. After all, the power of the law was too profound. Lu Yi was not too disappointed about this. Continuing his cultivation afterward, Lu Yi still regularly performed dual cultivation with Yun Zai and Jian Ruyu, and when the two were tired or had insights that required seclusion, Lu Yi would then cultivate other secret techniques and cultivation techniques. For instance, small void technique, melding array technique, immortal scripture, 9 heavens sword, immortal treasure book, immortal technique, star cutting, and so on. He would also practice array Tao, alchemy Dao, path of artifact refining, and various other skills. It could be said that time was very fulfilling. In the blink of an eye, another 10 years had passed. Lu Yi's cultivation base had advanced to the 9th level of Cave Void. Jian Ruyu had reached the peak of Cave Void, not far from breaking the Heavenly Tao limitation, and Yun Zai had also advanced to the 8th level of Cave Void. The three of them had extremely fast cultivation speed. One day, while the three were dual cultivating, the cave mansion was filled with the continuous sounds of dragons chanting and phoenixes crying. Yin-yang Tao patterns, sword Tao patterns, natural Tao patterns, and other mysterious Tao patterns flickered, enveloping the entire cave mansion in a powerful anomaly. At this moment, all three of them felt an extremely cold chill, causing their bodies to feel ice cold. Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu embraced each other, while Yun Zai, powerless, collapsed to the side. At this moment, all were startled and their eyes widened. "What is this?" Jian Ruyu exhaled a murky breath, her eyes full of surprise. Lu Yi excitedly said, "It's senior sister. She probably has absorbed the Xuanbing essence completely. She should be starting her transformation into an immortal body." Yun Zai propped herself up, weakly said, "Let's go and take a look." "Okay." The three quickly got up, dressed properly, and then left the cave mansion. The three came to the entrance of Liu Ningxuang's previously secluded cave mansion. Now, as it had not been attended to for many years, it was overgrown with weeds and some ivy climbing up the rock walls. Inside the stone gate of the cave mansion, an extremely rich chill slowly escaped, and thick ice frost began to spread rapidly, freezing all the nearby trees into ice sculptures. Even the three of them felt the intense cold. Jian Ruyu exhaled a breath of white air, somewhat shocked said, "So cold, the power of this ice frost is so potent." Just then, a column of ice blue light surged into the sky, heavily colliding with the white fog above in the sky. The white fog trembled for a moment. Lu Yi, somewhat astonished, said, "This anomaly is really powerful, even the great array is shaking." As the column of light appeared, an even richer chill spread out, taking Liu Ningxuang's secluded cave mansion as the center, spreading in all directions. Ice crystals ran rampant, and within a short moment, the mountain valley within dozens of kilometers was turned into an ice valley. Everything, whether trees, rocks, or animals residing within, was frozen into ice sculptures. Only the three of them were still alive. The entire valley had turned into a world of ice and snow. Regarding this, Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai were very calm, both having undergone their immortal body transformation before. They had experienced such a scene. Only Lu Yi, witnessing an immortal body transformation for the first time, was somewhat shocked. If it weren't for his use of a great array to cover it up, this commotion would probably have been many times larger. In that case, probably the entire Sea Clan battlefield would have been able to see the activity here. By then, who knows how many tribulation-crossing ancestors would have been attracted here. Fortunately, he had the foresight. Lu Yi breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. The immortal body transformation continued for a long time, until 3 days later, a loud rumbling sound echoed through the valley, and the whole mountain of Liu Ningxuang's secluded cave mansion split open. A blue light sphere slowly rose from inside the mountain. Lu Yi, with his excellent vision, saw the scene inside the light sphere. Liu Ningxuang's eyes were closed, dressed in a white gown, surrounded by a dense ice frost power, densely covered in ice Tao patterns enveloping her. Chapter 427, 188, 15 years later 2. Chapter 427, Chapter 188, 15 years later /2. Her originally jet-black hair had now transformed into long snow-white locks that danced in the chilly wind circling around her. At this moment, Liu Ningxuang, with her icy skin and jade-like bones, dressed in a fluttering white gown, stood in midair like a frosty immortal, ethereal as if made of ice and snow. As the cold wind surged, Countless Tao patterns flowed and slowly merged into Liu Ningxuang's snowy white skin, branding them upon her flesh. A vast number of Tao patterns shimmered erratically, coalescing into an extremely complex and mysterious snowflake imprint, which floated down like falling snowflakes and gently landed on Liu Ningxuang's forehead. The embellishment of the snowflake imprint added a touch of sanctity to Liu Ningxuang's originally cold and stunning face, making her even more breathtakingly beautiful. Not just Lu Yi, even Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai were momentarily stunned by such beauty. Jian Ruyu muttered softly, "Ningxuang is getting more and more beautiful." Upon hearing this, Lu Yi turned his head and saw Jian Ruyu's eyes shining. He was exasperated. Over the years, Sister Ruyu and Yun Zai had been practicing dual cultivation together. He wondered if this had awakened some special fetishes in them. Jian Ruyu noticed Lu Yi's expression, turned her head to look, and saw Lu Yi wearing a peculiar look which made her instantly wary. "You pervert junior brother, what are you thinking?" Lu Yi coughed dryly and said with a slight smile, "Nothing at all." Jian Ruyu smirked and nudged Lu Yi, speaking up, "Pervert junior brother, you're so lucky. With Ningxuang being so beautiful, won't you have a great time later? Why not take the opportunity to bring her in too?" Lu Yi. He looked at Jian Ruyu even more oddly. "When I asked you to join Yun Zai in practice, you flat out refused." Jian Ruyu glared at Lu Yi with irritation. "Isn't it all because of you? You forced it like this. What choice did I have? I couldn't beat you. Since it has come to this, might as well pull Ningxuang in." Yun Zai, who was listening to their conversation, also nodded. "Sister Ruyu's idea isn't bad, considering we both can't take much more." "Is that really okay?" Lu Yi was a bit embarrassed. Jian Ruyu looked at Lu Yi with disdain. "Considering the pervert you are, you're probably already thinking about how to bully Ningxuang, right?" Even Yun Zai nodded in agreement. "Lu, you must definitely be thinking of some weird things." Lu Yi put on the face of an upright gentleman. "How could that be? How could I, Lu Yi, be such a person? Is this how you see me in your hearts?" "Yes," Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai nodded together. Lu Yi, with a full head of exasperation, looked at them and laughed sardonically. "It seems you two are getting cocky again, huh? Just hope you won't regret it." Hearing this, Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai stiffened, with Jian Ruyu turning her head away, pretending she hadn't heard anything. Yun Zai followed suit, acting as if she heard nothing. Lu Yi was speechless. "Senior Sister Ruyu, even Yun Zai has started to learn bad habits from you." Jian Ruyu. She was utterly baffled, speechless, and wondered who it was that had been duped by this pervert at the beginning, who corrupted whom. Jian Ruyu fumed silently, not wanting to speak with Lu Yi anymore. Then, after a while in the sky, Liu Ningxuang's transformation was nearing its end. All the Tao patterns had integrated into her body. The blue glow surrounding Liu Ningxuang slowly dissipated, and a formidable wave of spiritual energy gradually seeped out from her being. Lu Yi and the others were astonished. "Peak of Cave Void," Jian Ruyu exclaimed in surprise. Yun Zai spoke up. "Sister Ningxuang has absorbed the immortal treasure. Her cultivation base has improved swiftly. I remember when I absorbed the 9-colored bellflowers, my cultivation base also increased significantly." Lu Yi envied them, wishing he could advance as fast. However, immortal treasures were truly wasted on him. After all, they could transform a mortal body into an immortal one, and the subsequent increase in task rewards for achieving an immortal body was crucial. Moreover, even if he used immortal treasures with his foundation, he couldn't possibly leap through so many realms like his senior sister had. Lu Yi shook his head and stopped thinking about it. At that moment, Liu Ningxuang's previously closed eyes slowly opened, revealing ice-blue pupils like a tranquil pond, flickering with profound and incomparable Tao patterns. Then the Tao patterns in her eyes slowly faded, and her pupils returned to pitch black, her snow-white hair returning to its black luster. Her eyes became vibrant, and the first thing she saw was Lu Yi and the others. A smile spread across her cool face, blooming like ice flowers, pure yet ravishing, tugging at heartstrings. Liu Ningxuang flew over and said with a smile, "Junior brother, I succeeded." Lu Yi smiled and replied, "Congratulations, senior sister, for transforming into an immortal body. From now on, the sky's the limit, and the path to immortality lies open and unobstructed before you." Liu Ningxuang lightly brushed her hair, revealing her snow-white side profile. Her deep black eyes looked at Lu Yi, filled with tenderness. "It's all thanks to you, junior brother. Without your Xuanbing essence, I couldn't have transformed." If senior sister was able to break through, then the Xuanbing essence was well spent. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang looked at each other, the air charged with an amorous tension. Just then Jian Ruyu impertinently said, "I'm wondering if you two, considering the atmosphere, want to kiss." As soon as Jian Ruyu's words fell, Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang both stiffened. Lu Yi, his head filled with black lines, turned to look at Jian Ruyu. This guy must be the equivalent of a solar-level light bulb, right? Seeing Jian Ruyu looking amused, Lu Yi glared fiercely at her and transmitted his voice. "Senior sister Ruyu, wait for it. Next time, I'll make sure you can't leave bed for a month." Chapter 428, 188, 15 years later 3. Chapter 428, Chapter 188, 15 years later /3. Hearing this, Jian Ruyu's smile suddenly froze, and she desperately transmitted a message to Lu Yi. "Perverted junior brother, I was wrong. Don't. I'll help you win Ningxuang over." Lu Yi was exasperated. "Sister and I are a perfect match. Why would I need your help?" "Then I'll help you hold down Ningxuang's hands. Wouldn't that be even more thrilling?" Jian Ruyu offered another plan. Lu Yi stiffened and coughed dryly. "Am I that kind of person?" "Aren't you?" Jian Ruyu retorted. "Perverted junior brother. Damn, who could refuse such a suggestion?" Lu Yi was exasperated again. Then he transmitted a message. "Next time we'll have a good discussion about this. Let's forget it this time." Jian Ruyu breathed a sigh of relief, grateful she knew how perverse her junior brother could be. As long as she kept this in mind, he was still easy to appease. While Lu Yi and Jian Ruyu were transmitting messages, Liu Ningxuang standing nearby felt somewhat shy and turned to glare faintly at Jian Ruyu. "Ruyu, what are you talking about?" Jian Ruyu chuckled dryly. Nothing. Ningxuang, you've gained a lot this time too. Not only did you transform into an immortal body, but you've also raised your cultivation base to the peak of Cave Void." Yunzai also smiled and congratulated. "Congratulations, Sister Ningxuang, on your transformation." Having just transformed into an immortal body, Liu Ningxuang was in a very good mood and nodded with a smile. "Thank you, Sister Yunzai." Then Liu Ningxuang noticed the tired look on the faces of Jian Ruyu and Yunzai and asked with some confusion, "Did you two not rest well? You seem a bit exhausted." Hearing this, Jian Ruyu stiffened and chuckled drily. "Not at all, we're just tired from cultivating." Although Jian Ruyu verbally offered to help Lu Yi with Liu Ningxuang, when it came time to act, Jian Ruyu immediately chickened out. After all, Liu Ningxuang was Jian Ruyu's good friend. Secretly stealing her beloved junior brother without her knowing, Jian Ruyu was really afraid Liu Ningxuang would beat her to death. To conceal this matter for as long as possible was the best strategy. Seeing Yunzai about to speak, Jian Ruyu quickly transmitted a message. "Yunzai, don't talk about the dual cultivation yet." Yunzai was just about to speak and paused. "Why, Sister Ruyu? We need to find a better opportunity to discuss it. Why bring it up now?" Jian Ruyu coaxed gently. Yunzai didn't have any objections and nodded. "All right then, if Sister Ningxuang joins us, it would definitely be more relaxing for us." I know. Then Jian Ruyu laughed. "Today is a great day for Ningxuang's transformation into an immortal body. Perverted junior brother, we need to drink a lot today, no rest until we're drunk." Perverted junior brother. Liu Ningxuang was taken aback and looked at Jian Ruyu with some confusion. Jian Ruyu stiffened and sweat nearly broke out on her forehead. Her mind raced, then her eyes lit up and she blurted out, "Ningxuang, you don't know, but junior brother actually comprehended the sword Tao law. That's a law, you know. Isn't that perverted? So I started calling him perverted junior brother." Upon hearing this, Liu Ningxuang was also shocked. "Junior brother, you actually mastered the sword Tao law." At that moment, Lu Yi was frustrated, his mind reeling, thinking Jian Ruyu, this girl, called him perverted for this reason. On the side, Jian Ruyu looked pleadingly at Lu Yi, fearing he'd ruin her explanation. Seeing the pitiful look on Jian Ruyu's face, Lu Yi sighed helplessly. Then he had a mischievous thought and transmitted a message slyly. "Call me Brother Yi, and I won't tell." Jian Ruyu. This cheeky kid asking her to call him brother. She's older, absurd. "Are you going to call?" Lu Yi's smile grew more presumptuous. "Krieg." Jian Ruyu clenched her teeth loudly, while nearby Liu Ningxuang frowned and asked in confusion, "Ruyu, are you all right?" Jian Ruyu forced a laugh. No worries. I just really wanted some spirit food." She glared at Lu Yi, then sent a telepathic message. "Brother Yi." "Ah, such a good sister," Lu Yi said happily. Jian Ruyu's chest heaved with irritation. At that moment Lu Yi laughed. "Senior sister, I indeed have mastered the sword Tao Law." Upon hearing this, Liu Ningxuang shifted her attention away from Jian Ruyu. She was tremendously astonished and then smiled. "Junior brother is really impressive. Only immortals can master the power of laws, and you've done it at the cave void realm." Liu Ningxuang's words left Jian Ruyu speechless inside. "Your junior brother is even more formidable." Lu Yi chuckled. "Senior sister, you flatter me. Senior sister Ruyu is right, let's properly celebrate today." "Yes," Liu Ningxuang nodded slightly, showing no objection. Back at the cave mansion, the four drank spiritual wine and discoursed about Taoism until the next day. Having had a drink, Lu Yi laughed softly. "Now that senior sister is out of seclusion, let's leave this place." Upon hearing this, Liu Ningxuang also nodded slightly. "Yes." Jian Ruyu spoke up. "I have no objections either. After being in seclusion for 15 years, I wonder what the outside world is like now." Yunzai also nodded slightly, showing no objection. They had stayed in this valley for 15 years, unaware of the ongoing battle between the Xi clan and the Eastern region practitioners. Since they planned to leave, Lu Yi packed up the array eye, and the white mist gradually dissipated to reveal the outside scenery. It looked as if it had just rained outside. The sky was exceptionally clear, azure and pure like a pristine gemstone. The four looked up at the sky. Jian Ruyu stretched lazily, showing a hearty smile. "It has been a long time since I've seen the sky. Seeing such a beautiful sky, I can't help but want to compose a poem." Hearing this, Lu Yi and the others all looked towards Jian Ruyu. Liu Ningxuang appeared surprised. "Ruyu, I thought you were only interested in the sword Dao. You can also compose poetry and engage in such mundane activities." "Ningxuang, you underestimate me. How hard can composing poetry be?" Jian Ruyu said, unconcerned. "Let's hear one then." Lu Yi was curious as well. Even Yunzai looked at Jian Ruyu in surprise. Seeing the three of them watching her, Jian Ruyu pondered for a long while, her cheeks turning a bright red before she strained out a line. "The sky, it's so blue." Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang, Yunzai. The air suddenly fell silent, and the atmosphere turned a bit awkward as the three stared dumbfounded at Jian Ruyu. With her cheeks still red, Jian Ruyu snapped, "Why are you looking at me like that? I am merely a sword cultivator, not some verbose worldly scholar. This is already pretty good." Lu Yi couldn't hold back his laughter. Jian Ruyu, furious and embarrassed, glared at Lu Yi. "Nice one, you freaky junior brother. What's so funny? If you're so capable, why don't you try composing one?" Liu Ningxuang and Yunzai also turned to look at Lu Yi, both recalling how many years ago at the 10,000 Flowers sect, Lu Yi had said that famous line in the purple Luo flower sea. Both of them remembered it vividly. Chapter 429, 189. Do you think you are Lu Yi? Chapter 429, Chapter 189. Do you think you are Lu Yi? Lu Yi smiled. "What's so difficult about that? Let me think." "HMPH, I don't believe you can recite anything worthwhile." Jian Ruyu crossed her arms, skeptical. Lu Yi's gaze swept across, then he chuckled. "Listen well. The wind returns, brushing lightly over the shallow blues. The rain passes, splashing ink across 1,000 peaks." Jian Ruyu. She looked at Lu Yi with a shocked face, quite disbelieving. Lu Yi was amused inside. Jokingly, in his past life he was someone who had read through Tang poems and song lyrics. With his increasing cultivation base, his spiritual power grew stronger and his memory improved. He remembered those poems, so finding a line was not difficult at all. Yunzai smiled and said, "Lu Yi truly knows everything. Not even those mortal scholars could likely match him." Lu Yi grinned at Jian Ruyu. "How about that? Are you convinced now?" "That's damn it." Jian Ruyu was extremely reluctant, but she had to admit it. If it were her, she couldn't have recited such poetry. How could this guy know everything? Liu Ningxuang also smiled lightly. "All right, let's go. Oh, junior brother, where shall we head?" Lu Yi smiled. "I plan to go to the sea to have a look." The sea. The three of them were taken aback, looking at Lu Yi. Liu Ningxuang frowned slightly. "Junior brother, the coastal areas of the eastern domain are currently under the Xi clan's control. It could be very dangerous to go there." Jian Ruyu was even more suspicious. "You're not planning to directly attack the Xi clan's main base, are you? Although you now have mastered the sword Tao Law, there are definitely many tribulation-crossing ancestors guarding the place. We might not be a match." Lu Yi said exasperatedly, "Senior sister Ruyu, what are you thinking about? How could I be so reckless? Rest assured, I'm just looking for a place by the seaside. We'll use the 1,000 transformation skill and stay away from the Sea Clan's settlements, so it shouldn't be too dangerous. Hearing this, Liu Ningxuang and the others exchanged glances. Liu Ningxuang nodded slightly, her smile light. Since you have made up your mind, junior brother, naturally, we will also follow. As long as we're not attacking the Sea Clan's main base, it's fine. Wherever you go, Liu Yi, I will go. Hearing the three's response, Liu Yi smiled slightly. In that case, let's head out. The four of them flew towards the eastern domain, and soon they encountered an ancient city under the control of the Eastern Domain Alliance army. The four used the 1,000 transformation skill to enter the ancient city and gathered information about the current situation on the Sea Clan battlefield. Over the past 15 years, the war between the Sea Clan and the Eastern Domain Alliance army was still quite fierce. The battle Liu Yi fought at East Bright City years ago caused the Black Water Flood Dragon clan to lose 3 great Mahayana great powers, plus over 30 unification great powers, significantly weakening the clan. This inflamed the Black Water Flood Dragon clan, placing Liu Yi at the top of their assassination list, even ranking first. This news caused a stir across the entire Eastern Domain Alliance army. Usually, those ranked on the assassination list were tribulation-crossing ancestors. For Liu Yi, a cultivator of the cave void realm, to be ranked first was outrageous. This meant that even tribulation-crossing practitioners of the Sea Clan, upon hearing about Liu Yi's whereabouts, would also come to eliminate him. Many practitioners speculated that Liu Yi's ranking was so high not only because of killing a Black Water Flood Dragon Mahayana, but most importantly due to Liu Yi's immense talent and the threat he posed to the Sea Clan. If left unchecked, Liu Yi could potentially become a mortal foe to the Sea Clan in the future. Of course, this was just speculation from the Eastern region practitioners. Yunzai, who was with Liu Yi, was also ranked highly, surpassing the Unification Realm older predecessors, nearly catching up to Jian Ruyu. After much speculation, Eastern region practitioners confirmed that the one following Liu Yi was indeed the immortal body, Yunzai, of the 10,000 Flowers sect, who had once shook the Eastern Domain. This further astonished the practitioners of the Eastern Domain. After all, she was an immortal body. Surprisingly, she was with Liu Yi. Later, when information about Yunzai and Liu Yi was dug up, the Eastern region practitioners found that Liu Yi and Yunzai had known each other since long ago and were very close. Looking at it now, their relationship was probably not just that of close Taoist companions. It was likely that they were Taoist couples. The news of an immortal body and Liu Yi being Taoist couples broke the hearts of countless young Eastern region practitioners. Many young male cultivators dreamt of the immortal body as their lover. After all, she was potentially a future immortal, and even if they weren't a match, they harbored some wild hopes. Surprisingly, she was already taken. If it were someone else, some talented male practitioners might have contested, but the person in question was Liu Yi, and they didn't even have the courage to compete. The saintesses from the immortal seed sacred lands, and the female successors of long-standing great sects, were also incredibly disheartened. Liu Yi's talents were unmatched. Even immortals marveled at his abilities. In one battle at East Bright City, he, being at the cave void realm, resisted those of the Mahayana realm, a truly spectacular talent. In all of Tiananmen throughout history, there had never been such a character. Naturally, many exceptionally talented female cultivators offered their hearts secretly, wishing to stay forever by Liu Yi's side. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Liu Yi already had a Taoist couple, and it was none other than the immortal body that shook the Eastern Domain. Even the successors of the immortal sect Holy Lands didn't believe their talents surpassed that of the immortal body. Some felt truly inferior. However, new rumors emerged, according to Wang Kaifeng from the Divine Sword sect, who preferred not to reveal his name. Liu Yi had visited the Divine Sword sect multiple times, each time staying overnight at the female sword immortal Jian Ruyu's cave mansion. Chapter 430-189. Do you think you are Liu Yi? 2. Chapter 430, Chapter 189. Do you think you are Liu Yi? /2. Upon these words, male cultivators across the Eastern Domain wailed in despair. The fact that Jian Ruyu possessed an immortal body, although not explicitly stated by Divine Sword sect, was almost certain following the speculation of tribulation, crossing ancestors from various immortal sect holy lands and great sects. Would have thought that she was also connected to Liu Yi. Lu Yi alone had two female cultivators with immortal bodies as his Taoist companions, making countless young men turn green with envy, jealousy, and hatred. However, this incident triggered a sparkle in the eyes of the female cultivators, giving rise to different thoughts. Since Lu Yi had more than one Taoist companion, then why couldn't they become Lu Yi's Taoist companions? Why couldn't they? Even if not immortal bodies, the saintesses from Immortal sect Holy Lands naturally possessed excellent conditions, with unparalleled aptitude and peerless grace, almost a prerequisite for every saintess. For a time, many saintesses began to get restless. However, what all cultivators did not expect was that, after the battle in East Bright City, Lu Yi mysteriously disappeared. It wasn't just Lu Yi who vanished. Yunzai and Jian Ruyu did too, and even Liu Ningxuang, who had been with Jian Ruyu, disappeared without a trace. This led to endless speculation among the cultivators. Some cultivators believed that Lu Yi and the others were assassinated by powerhouses of the Qi clan, while others thought they had been captured by the older generation of powerhouses in the Eastern Domain. Still, others believed that, given their extraordinary talent and their high rankings on the Qi clan's hit list, Divine Sword Sect did not want to lose them to accidents, so they had gone into hiding or perhaps closed-door cultivation. But not long after that, Divine Sword Sect clarified they had not hidden anyone. Even Jian Ruyu was not with them. However, since Jian Ruyu's life plate showed no signs of mishap, it indicated they were all still alive and well, just possibly laying low or in seclusion. Despite this, Lu Yi's outstanding performance in East Bright City was so remarkable that even after 15 years, people would still occasionally bring it up for discussion. Along with Lu Yi's strength, his romantic exploits were also a topic people delighted in talking about. In Ancient City, when Lu Yi heard these rumors, he was full of pride, his face beaming with a smile. Liu Ningxuang, Jian Ruyu, and Yunzai all looked at him with confusion. "Junior brother, you seem very happy." Lu Yi chuckled and said, "Seeing how these guys are gnashing their teeth as they talk about my romantic adventures tells me just how much they envy me. After all, my Taoist companions are peerless beauties, and they're both immortal bodies. Let them be envious." The three others were speechless, completely not understanding Lu Yi's pride. Apart from the news about Lu Yi, the four also learned quite a lot about the Qi clan battlefield. Over the years, the battles between the Eastern Domain Alliance army and the Qi clan forces remained fierce. However, the Eastern Domain Alliance army, consisting of cultivators from the entire Eastern Domain, including many from Immortal sect Holy Lands and Great Sects, had gradually gained the upper hand over the years of fighting. There was also news that the dream of the Xianxia Dragon Python clans, three Void Immortal, to unite the Qi clan had encountered resistance. After all, the dominant powers within the Qi clan each possessed clan guardian immortal artifacts. Upon learning about the movements of the Xianxia Dragon Python clan, other Qi clan powerhouses from different Qi areas also banded together, resisting the clan's Void Immortals. Even with three Void Immortals and their clan's guardian immortal artifact, the Xianxia Dragon Python clan still found it difficult to suppress the combined might of numerous immortal artifacts wielded by Qi clan powerhouses. The internal stalemate within the Qi clan had persisted for quite some time. On the Eastern Domain battlefield, where Qi clan cultivators couldn't get reinforcements and suffered great losses from years of war, they slowly began to falter. In these 15 years of warfare, the Eastern Domain Alliance army won more than it lost, pushing the battlefield towards the Qi by as much as an entire province. However, it might still take a considerable while before the war could end, barring any unforeseen circumstances. For the entire Eastern Domain, this was good news. For Lu Yi, however, the Qi clan retreating presented some complications. As the Qi clan battlefield retreated, areas near the Qi became increasingly occupied with their strongholds, and powerhouses began to congregate there. It would be more troublesome for him to pass through these areas to reach the Eastern Domain Qi area. Yet having come this far, Lu Yi naturally wouldn't give up easily. Even if the Eastern Domain Alliance army could win the Great War against the Qi clan, it might still take decades, and he wasn't willing to wait that long. After gathering information, Lu Yi and the three others left the ancient city and continued towards the Eastern Domain Qi area. All four of them were swift, and within just 3 days, they crossed an immense distance and arrived at the front line where battles were fiercest. Boom! As they approached the front line, an incredibly powerful surge of energy came from afar, drawing their gaze. A battle in the unification realm. Liu Ningxuang slightly furrowed her brows. Let's go take a look. The four flew toward that direction. Before long, they drew close to the battlefield. Off in the distance in the sky, three Unification Realm Sea Clan great powers were besieging a figure shrouded in dragon scales, with the true dragon Tao pattern swirling around. Seeing this figure, Lu Yi had a peculiar expression. What a coincidence to run into Long Yashin. Heavenly Dragon Saint Son, he's here too. Jian Ruyu was also surprised. The Heavenly Dragon Saint's son was not weak. After these years, he had clearly remained vigilant and attained the 7th level of Cave Void. Although behind Lu Yi, it was not by much, and he was by no means slow. His opponents consisted of two great powers at the Unification 4th layer and one at the 5th layer of Integration, all of whom were also incredibly strong. The battle was intense. The Heavenly Dragon Saint's son had an exceedingly strong body, and despite being suppressed by three Unification great powers, he resisted attack after attack with his formidable strength. He roared continually, bellowing incessantly, and occasionally attempted to launch a counterattack. Chapter 431-189. Do you think you are Lu Yi? 3. Chapter 431, Chapter 189. Do you think you are Lu Yi? /3. Three Unification great powers were, at the moment, unable to do anything to him. Meanwhile, in another area, two great Mahayana powers were confronting each other. One was a tall old man, and the other was a young man with a head full of black hair cascading down his shoulders. One was a powerhouse from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land, and the other was likely a great power of the Black Water Flood Dragon. The powerhouse from the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land had a cold expression as he fixated on the Black Water Flood Dragon great power before him and said, "Our clan's Saint Heir has reached small success in his cultivation. 3 of your Unification Realm Black Water Flood Dragons won't be able to kill him. Soon, our clan's ancient ancestor will arrive." Upon hearing this, the Black Water Flood Dragon great power laughed coldly. "That remains to be seen. Long Yashin has killed many talented juniors of my Black Water Flood Dragon clan. Today he must die. Our clan elder is also on his way." "Are you looking for a great battle today?" the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land powerhouse said with a frosty expression. "To exterminate a demon of the eastern region is worth it," responded the Black Water Flood Dragon great power, equally icy. "If the Sea Clan wants a battle, the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land will accompany you to the end," declared the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land powerhouse bluntly, as spiritual energy surged around him. The Black Water Flood Dragon great power smiled. "Save your strength, Long He. We have fought many times with our strengths nearly even, and neither of us can definitively win. Why bother with this?" Upon hearing these words, Long He frowned deeply and continued to glare at the Black Water Flood Dragon great power. Just then, the Black Water Flood Dragon great power sensed something, turned his head, and saw Lu Yi and his 3 companions rapidly approaching. "Eastern Region practitioners." The Black Water Flood Dragon great power narrowed his eyes, then scoffed coldly. "It turns out it's just 4 Cave Void cultivators." Lu Yi's group, of course, also heard the Black Water Flood Dragon great power's words and couldn't resist raising their eyebrows. Jian Ruyu crossed his arms and laughed. "What about Cave Void cultivators? Hasn't your Black Water Flood Dragon clan been killed by Cave Void cultivators before?" The Black Water Flood Dragon great power's face turned icy, seeking death. He reached out with one hand, and mystic water surged, transforming into a huge pitch-black hand, clawing towards Lu Yi and his companions. The giant hand was tens of kilometers wide, covering the sky and sun, bringing with it terrifying waves of spiritual energy. Seeing this, Long He reached out with a hand, and a dragon claw hand emerged to meet the pitch-black giant hand, resulting in a thunderous roar. The space between the two giant hands shattered, turning into a dark void, while the shockwaves wreaked havoc below, causing mountains to collapse and the ground to turn into magma. Long He sneered. "They aren't wrong. In the battle at East Bright City, Lu Yi was indeed just a Cave Void cultivator. Your Black Water Flood Dragons lost 3 great Mahayana powers to him." Enraged, the Black Water Flood Dragon great power's spiritual energy swirled around him. "Long He, do you truly believe you have no way to deal with me?" Long He chuckled coldly. "Indeed, you do not have any way to deal with me." He turned his head to look at Lu Yi and his companions and said, "This is not a place for you to stay. Leave now." Lu Yi smiled. "Senior, how about we join forces to slay this Black Water Flood Dragon?" Upon hearing this, Both Long He and the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power were stunned, their expressions suddenly becoming weird. The Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power laughed uproariously. Ha ha ha, kill me, with just you. Do you think you are Lu Ye? Long He also had veins popping out on his forehead. Had this cave void cultivator gone mad? Are you mocking me? Snapped Long He, his temper flaring. Lu Ye smiled slightly, and the heavenly array map flew out, turning into an expanse of array patterns that covered hundreds of kilometers. Then roars resounded as four illusions swiftly appeared, clearly the four symbols kill formation. At the sight of the four symbols kill formation, the laughter of the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power ceased abruptly. His eyes widened as he stared at the divine beast's illusions converging in the sky, and his complexion changed. The four symbols kill formation. Lu Ye had used the four symbols kill formation and the thunder-inducing 10,000 sword formation in East Bright City to hold off Mo Ming, which significantly boosted the formation's reputations. Seeing the four divine beasts' illusions materialize, Long He's face lit up with surprise and joy. The four symbols kill formation. Are you really Lu Ye? Lu Ye responded with a slight smile. Yes, senior. How about we join forces to slay this Black Water Flood Dragon? Long He burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, excellent. Golden spirit light flashed around him, and true dragon Tao patterns began circulating, with dragon scales condensing on his body as he used the heavenly dragon transformation right away. Tremendous spiritual energy and a tidal wave of vitality emerged as Long He went all out from the start. Since Lu Ye is here, let's slay this Black Water Flood Dragon. He stepped forward, pressuring the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power. At that moment, the complexion of the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power turned incredibly grim. His power had been evenly matched with Long He, but he had not expected to encounter Lu Ye. The three Black Water Flood Dragon Unification Great Powers and the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, who were some distance away, also noticed the commotion and looked over in shock. Upon seeing the four symbols kill formation, the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun's expression turned to astonishment. Is it Brother Lu? Then a smile spread across his face as he wiped blood from his mouth and fixed his gaze on the three unification great powers. With Brother Lu here, how can I, Long Yashin, allow myself to be looked down upon? You three old fools die. After his crushing defeat at the hands of Lu Ye, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's spirit had been broken, but a few words from Lu Ye had led him to a sudden epiphany, breaking and reforming to advance even faster than before. And after the battle of East Bright City, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun realized that he would never catch up to Lu Ye in this lifetime. Even so, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun still viewed Lu Ye as his target, striving to reach that benchmark. Now that Lu Ye was present, naturally, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun did not want Lu Ye to see him fail. Spiritual energy circulated around him, with an incredibly overpowering aura radiating outward, as cracks appeared in the depths of the dragon scales on his body. Heavenly Dragon 4 Transformations. The Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun directly used a secret technique that he had yet to master. Seeing the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun like this, the faces of the three Black Water Flood Dragon Unification Great Powers changed. Has this fool gone mad? Never mind him, what do we do now that Lu Ye is here? After the battle of East Bright City, Lu Ye's power had made a deep impression. Merely his appearance had caused all three unification great powers to pale, their eyes filled with terror. Chapter 432, 190, Deep into Enemy Lines. Chapter 432, Chapter 190, Deep into Enemy Lines. At that moment, a great power from the Mahayana realm, the Black Water Flood Dragon, decisively commanded from afar, retreat. Upon hearing these words, a sigh of relief came from the three unification great powers, and they prepared to withdraw. Lu Ye let out a cold laugh. Think you can escape? With a mere thought, he summoned four divine beast illusions that roared and firmly blocked the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power. Razor-sharp claw lights, massive mountains, ghastly leaving fire, and endless water arrows surged, submerging the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power. Boom! Mystic water swirled around the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power, blocking all attacks, his face an icy cold visage as he bellowed, Lu Ye, do not push people too far. Ha ha ha, what if I do? Long He laughed heartily and stepped forward, like a human-shaped dragon, charging toward the Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power. His blood surged, transforming into golden smoke that shot straight into the sky, a terrifying sight to behold. He reached out with a dragon claw hand strike. The fearsome dragon claw, like that of a true dragon's, struck at the black water flood dragon great power. The black water flood dragon great power continuously roared in fury. He transformed into his tens of kilometers long true form, his huge body writhing, harnessing the power of mystic water to shatter the dragon claw hand. His body stiffened for a moment as if struck by lightning. And then an endless onslaught from the four divine beast illusions overwhelmed him. Even so, the strength of this black water flood dragon great power was not even comparable to that of Mo Ming before. Even when facing the siege of the four divine beast illusions, his scales shattered and blood welled up injured. Luya was taken aback and said speechlessly, "He's much weaker than that Mo Ming." Upon hearing this, the black water flood dragon great power spat out a mouthful of blood, the atmosphere extremely heavy as he roared out in anger, "Luya!" Luya paid no heed to the black water flood dragon great power's roars. He was only muttering to himself, "I must kill these Sea Clan cultivators." Task: kill Sea Clan cultivators. Reward: tribulation crossing skill, Xuanbing Sea covering seal, 10 million year spirit jades, and increased enlightenment in the water Tao. Will you accept the task? Yes, no. Compared to the task rewards from East Bright City, this was much less. But considering the black water flood dragon great power's strength was just so-so, Luya felt he could not ask for more. Otherwise it would seem somewhat unfair to him. Luya silently accepted the task. Seeing the black water flood dragon great power injured in the fierce battle, the three Unification Realm black water flood dragons were even more shockingly puzzled. Another black water flood dragon great power roared, "Split up and run." "Where do you think you're running to?" bellowed the heavenly dragon Saint's son, who had used the heavenly dragon for transformations and was now bathed in blood. With surging blood energy, he slapped at one of the Unification great powers. The latter's face changed dramatically, and he quickly spat out a long sword, shooting it toward the heavenly dragon Saint's son. Clang! The sword Cultivation treasure collided with the heavenly dragon Saint's son's palm, immediately cracking and flying back while the palm landed on the Unification great power, sending him flying backward, coughing up blood repeatedly. Meanwhile, the other two Unification great powers had already taken this opportunity to flee far away. Just as the two Unification great powers thought they saw a glimmer of hope, suddenly two figures blocked their path. It was none other than Liu Ningxuang and Jian Ruyu. Liu Ningxuang, using the 1,000 transformation skill, had taken on the appearance of an average-looking young girl, but those chilly eyes, like a serene ice lake, remained captivating. She looked at the Unification 5th layer great power before her with a very calm expression. That Unification 5th layer great power, however, had a ferocious expression, and he thundered, "Get out of the way." A stream of dark, mysterious water shot toward Liu Ningxuang, intending to dissolve her. However, just as the dark, mysterious water approached Liu Ningxuang, it froze midair, turning into frost. What? The Unification 5th layer great power's complexion shifted dramatically, a look of disbelief on his face. Meanwhile, mists of ice appeared around Liu Ningxuang, and over 90% of her ice domain slowly spread, carrying a terrifying momentum that made the Unification 5th layer great power feel a chill in his heart. How can a mere cave void realm be so strong? He didn't have time to think further as he felt his body inexplicably freezing. His complexion changed to one of horror as spiritual energy and mystic water surged, trying to break free, but the terrible Xuanbing seemed to penetrate everywhere, making it impossible for him to prevent his steps from freezing. "No!" The Unification 5th layer black water flood dragon great power cried out in despair as he, along with his mystic water, froze solid, losing all signs of life. Liu Ningxuang gently waved her hand, and the ice sculpture disintegrated into dust and disappeared into the sky, eradicating both spirit and form. On the other side, a sword light flashed across space at such speed that the Unification 4th layer great power had no chance to react before it sliced through his body. Suddenly, the body of the Unification 4th layer great power stiffened, and in the next moment, over 90% of the sword domain surged, turning the Unification 4th layer great power into a mist of blood. Jian Ruyu looked over at Liu Ningxuang with some surprise. "Ningxuang, you've grown so much stronger after your transformation." You should know that even before Liu Ningxuang's transformation, fighting even a Unification 1st layer cultivator was quite a struggle. Yet now she was able to kill a unification fifth layer great power with ease. Liu Ningxuang smiled lightly, feeling equally astonished. Yes. On the other side, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun was suppressing the remaining unification fourth layer great power. Both sensed Jian Ruyu and Liu Ningxuang's effortless annihilation of two great powers and were utterly confounded. Especially the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, who had originally thought he was only slightly inferior to Lu Yi, had no idea that there was such a powerful female cultivator. He began to question his whole life. In the moment of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's distraction, the unification fourth layer great power ignited all his essence blood, boosting his speed tremendously as he attempted to flee into the distance. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun snapped back to reality, his expression changing to one of alarm. Damn it. Chapter 433, 190, Deep into Enemy Lines 2. Chapter 433, Chapter 190, Deep into Enemy Lines /2. A unification fourth layer great power burned his essence blood, achieving extreme speeds, and even the heavenly dragon Saint Sun couldn't catch up if he couldn't block him in time. In just a moment, that unification great power had already appeared more than 10 kilometers away. It's over, I've lost face in front of Brother Liu. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun felt extremely uncomfortable for a moment. Just then, a streak of cyan light shot past the heavenly dragon Saint Sun and instantly caught up with the unification great power more than 10 kilometers away, engulfing him. The next moment, the unification great power's body directly turned into ash, vanishing from sight. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun felt a chill in his heart, turned with disbelief, and saw a green lotus phantom appearing above Yunzai's head, swaying and releasing terrifying Tao light. You are Lu Yi's Taoist couple, Yunzai. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun thought of the rumors in East Bright City and exclaimed in shock. Hearing this, Yunzai felt a slight surprise in her heart and nodded with a smile. I am Lu Yi's Taoist couple. Next to her, Jian Ruyu and Liu Ningxuang heard this, their heads full of black lines, looking at the heavenly dragon Saint Sun with a cold, killing intent. This made the heavenly dragon Saint Sun extremely startled, feeling like he could die at any moment. He was incredibly shocked and also very confused, not understanding what had just happened. Seeing Yunzai, he naturally thought of the other two. You are Brother Lu's other Taoist couple, Jian Ruyu, and Brother Lu's senior sister, Liu Ningxuang. Upon hearing this, Jian Ruyu immediately revealed a smile. Indeed, I am Jian Ruyu. Liu Ningxuang's expression was cold, her body surrounded by a chilling aura as she spoke faintly. Indeed, I am his senior sister. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun noticed Liu Ningxuang's expression and felt as if he was standing at the gates of death, a sense of fear springing up in his heart. He dared not speak anymore, lest he anger Liu Ningxuang. At this moment, a scream came from the distance. The great Mahayana black water Jiao, greatly wounded and incredibly weak, ultimately had his head pierced through with a heavenly dragon fist by Long He and died on the spot. Lu Yi appeared calm, facing no pressure at all. He had merely acted casually, without fully employing his various means, yet he was still able to cooperate with Long He to kill the great Mahayana black water Jiao. It could only be said that the great Mahayana black water Jiao was indeed somewhat weak. Seeing the giant corpse of the great Mahayana black water Jiao falling from the sky, Long He let out a breath of turbid air, then showing a hint of a smile, said to Lu Yi, Young friend Lu Yi, thank you. Otherwise, the situation might have become quite serious. Lu Yi smiled. Senior, you're too polite. As an Eastern region practitioner, it is my duty. Long He sighed. Truly worthy of you, young friend Lu Yi. If Ao Tian had even half of your ability, why would I worry that the heavenly dragon Holy Land could not prosper? Lu Yi replied with a smile. Heavenly dragon Saint Sun is extraordinarily talented, and his strength is not weak either. Those three are. Long He looked toward Liu Ningxuang and the others in the distance. He had also noticed the terrifying strength of the three. They effortlessly killed those three Unification Realm Black Water Jiao great powers, far surpassing the heavenly dragon Saint Sun. Upon hearing this, Lu Yi glanced at Liu Ningxuang and the others, coughed drily and said, They are my Taoist couples. Hearing this, Long He was stunned, then burst into hearty laughter. The world always says young friend Lu Yi is romantically charming. Indeed it is so. Being teased by such a senior, Lu Yi also couldn't help feeling a bit embarrassed. A man who isn't romantic is wasting his youth, right? And I'm still young, just over 100 years old. Long He's laugh suddenly stopped. He felt as if his heart had been pierced. If it weren't for Lu Yi himself saying it, Long He would have forgotten that the junior before him, whose strength was sufficient to match his own, or perhaps even possessed more and stronger techniques, was now just over 100 years old. This, Long He felt his Tao heart being pierced by endless swords, and he simply couldn't laugh. Seeing Long He with a stiff expression, Lu Yi was somewhat puzzled. "Senior, are you all right?" Coming back to his senses, Long He shook his head. "It's nothing, let's move on." Lu Yi nodded. Lu Yi flew over to Jian Ruyu and the others, smiling and asking, "How's it going? Are you doing okay?" Jian Ruyu wrinkled her nose and said, "Honestly, after reaching our current cultivation base, Unification Realm cultivators seem a little insignificant. Next time, leave me a Mahayana cultivator, okay?" Liu Ningxuang also nodded, speaking coldly. Ruyu is right. Maybe we can actually compare ourselves with Mahayana cultivators now." Lu Yi was not surprised, for over the years, even the weakest among them, Yunzai, had reached the cave void 8th layer. Moreover, because of her immortal body, her natural domain had reached 99%, and her magic skills had become profoundly deep. Her strength was extremely terrifying. Coupled with the spiritual artifacts Lu Yi had provided them, ordinary unification great powers might indeed not be their match. Hearing this, both the heavenly dragon Saint Sun and Long He were shocked. 3 cave void cultivators were actually considering challenging a great Mahayana great power. Have the great Mahayana great powers become so weak? Long He was somewhat caught in self-doubt. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun had already reverted from the heavenly dragon 4 transformations, and because he had used a secret technique that he had not yet mastered, he had injured his origin, becoming significantly weaker, his face pale. He flew over and showed a radiant smile to Lu Yi. "Brother Lu, long time no see." Lu Yi also had a radiant smile. "Indeed, Brother Aotian, it's been a long time." Seeing the heavenly dragon Saint Sun look weak, seemingly having injured his origin, Lu Yi reached out and touched him, letting his power of nature flow and merge into the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's body. Lu Yi's power of nature had become exceedingly impressive, reaching 99%, only half a step away from the perfection realm's natural domain. Chapter 434-190, Deep into Enemy Lines 3. Chapter 434, Chapter 190, Deep into Enemy Lines /3. The rich vitality circulated, instantly healing heavenly dragon Saint Sun's injuries. Seeing his own injuries healed so quickly left heavenly dragon Saint Sun completely stiffened, his eyes wide open as he stared at Lu Yi. "Brother Lu, is this the power of nature?" Lu Yi chuckled. "I had an epiphany by a fortunate coincidence." Heavenly dragon Saint Sun's eyes held a hint of admiration as he exclaimed, "Indeed, Brother Lu, I am far from your equal." Long He at the side was also completely numb. As a great Mahayana cultivator, Long He naturally knew how strong the power of nature that Lu Yi used was. It was definitely of domain level. Moreover, it was an extremely profound kind within the domain. Is this the talent that even immortals marvel at? Long He couldn't help feeling that sometimes. The gap between people is even greater than the gap between a person and a dog. After his surprise, Long He laughingly suggested, "Since fate has brought us together here with Lu Yi, why don't we travel together? We're planning to go to Moon Spirit City." Lu Yi was startled for a moment, then he chuckled and shook his head. "We have something to do, I'm afraid we can't go to Moon Spirit City." Hearing this, both Long He and Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun looked disappointed, but Lu Yi continued to speak. "However, we will travel in that direction for a while, so we can accompany each other for part of the journey." Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun's eyes brightened at these words, and he said with a smile, "That would be perfect." Lu Yi chuckled. "It's been a long time since I've seen Brother Aotian, so we could have a friendly sparring." Lu Yi muttered to himself, "I must defeat the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun." Task: defeat the Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun. Reward: 1 drop of true dragon essence. Do you accept the task? Yes, no. Lu Yi felt delighted inside. The last time he sparred with Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, he was at the Divinity Transformation Realm, and now Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun was of the Cave Void Realm. The rewards for the sparring had indeed increased again. True Dragon Essence sounds quite impressive. Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun also had a cheerful expression. "If Brother Lu is willing to use the body refining Tao to spar with me, I am of course willing. If it's array techniques, I'll admit defeat right away." Lu Yi chuckled. Don't worry, I won't take advantage of you. Seeing Lu Yi and Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun conversing amicably, Long He also wore a full smile. After all, Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun was the future successor of the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land. Even the Immortal behind the Holy Land had nurtured him as an immortal seed, the future of the Holy Land. And with Lu Yi's natural talent being strong enough, he would definitely become an immortal in the future, and judging by Lu Yi's performance, he would likely be an extraordinary one at that. For such an exceptional demon, it would be a great thing for both Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun himself and the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land if he could form a good relationship with him. Afterward, the group didn't stay there long, as the great power of the Black Water Flood Dragon had already notified its ancestors. They promptly left to avoid further troubles. Moon Spirit City was in the core area of the Sea Clan battlefield, which happened to be en route for Lu Yi and his companions. For Lu Yi, it was also an opportunity to have a friendly sparring with Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun and obtain some body-refining resources. On the way, everyone traveled by day and rested by night, with Lu Yi and Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun occasionally sparring to acquire quite a number of true dragon essence drops. During rest periods, they would chat and discuss the Tao. Lu Yi, curious, asked Long He, "Senior, why are you heading to Moon Spirit City? It should be quite dangerous there, right?" After all, Moon Spirit City was the forefront ancient city where the Eastern Domain Alliance Army and the Sea Clan Army met, serving as one of the main battlefields where the fighting was fierce. Even for unification great powers, death in such a place was not an uncommon occurrence. Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun could be considered the future of the Heavenly Dragon Holy Land. It was understandable to seek experience, but coming to such a dangerous area seemed rather exaggerated. Hearing this, Long He's expression turned grave as he said, "Recently, scouts have reported that the Sea Clans, Tribulation-crossing ancestors, and a large number of great powers are assembling and have entered Tiandong City, not far from Moon Spirit City. They probably intend to launch a major battle. Many ancestors and great powers from various immortal sect holy lands in the Eastern Domain have come here to support, and naturally I am no exception. As for Ao Tian." At this point, Long He's expression became a bit strange as he said, "This matter is supposed to be confidential, but since it's Lu Yi, it should be fine to tell you." Lu Yi was somewhat astonished. "Senior, what are you referring to?" After the Immortal of the Immortal Sword Sect awakened, the presences behind the Immortal Sect holy lands of our Eastern Domain have all taken action, bestowing a vast amount of resources to cultivate prodigious talents. It's aimed at nurturing immortals, explained Long He. Hearing this, Lu Yi was taken aback and surprised. Jian Ruyu spoke up, "It's the same with my Divine Sword Sect. The Divine Sword Steel is now more accessible to the younger generation of cultivators, and even the resources have been significantly increased. Is it the will of the immortals?" Lu Yi inquired curiously, "Why all of a sudden?" Long He shook his head. "How could an old man like me understand the thoughts of immortals? But even resources bestowed by immortals are not endless. They only go to the most talented disciples. The young people in all sects want to perform even better now, as only by doing so will they get more resources and be closer to becoming immortals. Many young people are involved in the upcoming battles at Moon Spirit City, not just Ao Tian." Lu Yi had a moment of realization. "I see." At that, Long He chuckled and said, "Of course, part of the reason involves you, Lu Yi." Lu Yi was startled. "Me?" "Yes, you are too strong. Ao Tian, being among the top talents of our Eastern Domain's younger generation, was overshadowed by you, let alone others. With you as a benchmark, they are all striving their hardest," said Long He with a laugh. Lu Yi's mouth twitched. He hadn't realized he had such an effect. Several days later, they approached the vicinity of Moon Spirit City. Long He and Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun both invited Lu Yi's group to Moon Spirit City to prepare for the upcoming battle. They had also heard that Lu Yi's group planned to venture deeper, prompting varied reactions. Many great powers and even tribulation-crossing ancestors are present in the coastal areas of the Eastern Domain now. If they discover you, they will definitely spare no effort to encircle and suppress you. Lu Yi, my advice is not to go any deeper," Long He warned with gravity after hearing this news. Lu Yi just chuckled. "Don't worry, Senior. I have my own judgment." Seeing Lu Yi so assured, Long He could only sigh and say no more. Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, seeing that Lu Yi's group actually intended to penetrate deep into enemy territory, was somewhat eager to try, even asking if he could join them. But before Lu Yi could respond, he was stopped by Long He. Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun could only reluctantly give up. After saying their goodbyes to Long He and Heavenly Dragon Saint Sun, Lu Yi and his companions passed through the area of Moon Spirit City and continued to venture deeper into the coastal region of the Eastern Domain. Update first, correct later tilde. Chapter 435, 191, Rectifying the Chaos in the Heavenly Mechanism. Chapter 435, Chapter 191, Rectifying the Chaos in the Heavenly Mechanism. Sea clan cultivators, when their cultivation reached profound depths, would all transform into human form, though their origin aura slightly differed from that of the human clan. However, the Thousand Transformation skill, being an extremely exquisite secret technique, could also simulate a similar origin aura. As long as they did not enter the cities of the Sea Clan or get too close to the Sea Clan powerhouses, they were unlikely to be discovered. Moreover, Lu Yi and his companions had never intended to actually enter the cities of the Sea Clan. The four of them moved through the wilderness, keeping an extremely low profile. Encountering Sea Clan cultivators along the way, Lu Yi and his companions would strike with the swiftness of a thunderbolt, killing them instantly, taking down as many as possible. Of course, Lu Yi had also issued a task, and the reward of Water Tao Enlightenment was quite decent. After Lu Yi and his group had ventured a certain depth into the territories controlled by the Sea Clan, they suddenly noticed that the Sea Clan cultivators were acting strangely. Many Sea Clan strongholds had large numbers of Sea Clan cultivators leaving, flying towards the front lines. In the sky, bands of Sea Clan cultivators flew by from time to time, while cultivators venturing deep into the coastal areas of the Eastern Domain had become rare. Even Unification Realm powerhouses passed by occasionally. This made the expressions of Lu Yi and his companions a bit solemn. With a clear and cold face, Liu Ningxuang said, "What Elder Long He mentioned before about a great battle near Moon Spirit City, it looks like it's really happening." Jian Ruyu nodded, and looking at the situation, the scale of the battle seems quite large. We've already encountered 3 unification great powers. Yunzai then said, "Lu Yi, we have killed all these Sea Clan cultivators. Could it cause any trouble?" Liu Ningxuang and Jian Ruyu also turned their gaze towards Lu Yi. Along the way, even when they encountered groups of Sea Clan cultivators, Lu Yi had exterminated them all, turning them into task rewards. Lu Yi smiled. "No worries if needed, we can just change our appearance again later. Besides, with so many Sea Clan cultivators moving back and forth, a few missing people won't be noticed." Hearing these words, Jian Ruyu and the others spoke no more. Just then, all 4 of them paused simultaneously and looked towards the sky. In that direction, streaks of light flashed by, led by 3 cultivators with immensely powerful auras, like the abyss itself. Mahayana Realm Cultivators. Behind the 3 Mahayana cultivators, there were 10 Unification Great Powers, along with a large number of Cave Void Realm and Divinity Transformation Realm cultivators. This caused some alarm among Lu Yi and his group. So many powerful members of the Sea Clan. This must be the top brass of the Black Water Flood Dragon, right? It looks like this battle might be larger than we imagined. Just this small area alone has 3 passing Mahayana Great Powers. Liu Ningxuang frowned. Following that, the 3 turned their gaze towards Lu Yi. "Freak Junior brother, can you handle them? Or should we just let them pass?" Jian Ruyu asked. Lu Yi narrowed his eyes and smiled slightly. "Of course we can't let them go. Just right, let me test my current strength." Saying this, Lu Yi muttered to himself in his mind, "I will kill the Sea Clan cultivators in the sky." Task: kill the Sea Clan cultivators in the sky. Reward: Water Tao Understanding increased, top-grade spiritual artifact Mist Pearl, top-grade spiritual artifact Xuanbing Jade Robe, a strand of water law. Would you like to receive the reward? Yes, no. Lu Yi raised an eyebrow. The task rewards were generous indeed. He accepted the task, and then around his body, streaks of starlight flashed and 10% of the Sword Dao laws emerged, transforming the surroundings. Liu Ningxuang and Yun Dai both displayed slight changes in their expressions. They could no longer feel the power of the Ice Tao and Natural Tao around them. Jian Ruyu's eyes lit up, feeling an incredibly dense power of Sword Dao. The entire heaven and earth seems to be composed of the Sword Dao, too powerful. A sword mark appeared on Jian Ruyu's forehead as she murmured involuntarily. The surge of such terrifying spiritual energy, naturally attracted the attention of the Qi clan cultivators in the sky. All Qi clan cultivators' faces changed dramatically, staring intently at the source of the aura on the ground. The leading Mahayana realm great power had spiritual energy circulating around him, an aura as strong as a peak of great Mahayana emerging, dark mysterious water flowing as if alive, condensing into a black suit of war armor around him. He brandished a dark red spear in his hand and bellowed, "Who goes there? Show yourself." A stream of starlight emerged, appearing abruptly in the sky, facing the host of Qi clan cultivators. It was Lu Yi. The sword intent and starlight swirling around Lu Yi left all the Qi clan cultivators in utter shock. This aura was too overwhelming. The leading Qi clan Mahayana great power's gaze flickered, chilling as he asked, "Who are you?" At that moment, behind this peak of Mahayana black water flood dragon, a stunningly beautiful woman from the fourth layer of Mahayana widened her eyes in shock, her expression drastically changing. "Impossible. Are you Lu Yi?" Although Lu Yi had altered his appearance, when he fully unleashed his power, his aura was still revealed. Lu Yi was taken aback, looked at the black water flood dragon woman, and then realizing, he smiled. The black water flood dragon who escaped last time in East Bright City. Last time, during the battle in East Bright City, a black water flood dragon had used a space teleportation talisman to escape. Lu Yi clearly remembered this and didn't expect to encounter her here now. Really, Lu Yi? Hearing this name, all Qi clan strongholds showed a slight change in their expressions, as the battle Lu Yi had fought in East Bright City had caused significant losses to the Qi clan, and all Qi clan cultivators remembered him. Even on the hit list, Lu Yi's name still hung in first place. Chapter 436, 191, Disrupting the Heavenly Mechanism 2. Chapter 436, Chapter 191, Disrupting the Heavenly Mechanism /2. However, at this moment, all members of the Qi clan felt a shiver. How is this possible? How could Lu Yi possess such strength? The peak great Mahayana black water flood dragon tensed its body, staring fixedly at Lu Yi as if beholding a primordial fierce beast. Even though they hadn't fought yet, it was already contemplating retreat. Just then, Lu Yi took a step forward, like a swath of starlight cascading down from the heavens. A pure silver sword light flashed by in the blink of an eye, and then was gone as if it had never been there. The world fell silent. Afterwards, all the Qi clan cultivators in the sky shattered into pieces, turning into clouds of blood mist that dissipated into the air. Lu Yi exhaled a turbid breath, his face slightly pale, his breath somewhat weaker than before. In order to prevent any complications, and not give these Qi clan cultivators a chance to counterattack or send messages, Lu Yi directly used his most powerful technique. He deployed 10% of the sword Tao Law at full strength, even utilizing the immortal sword skill, star cutting. As the so-called immortal sword skill implies, it involves the use of the power of laws to activate. After the previous 15 years of Tao understanding, with his own strong comprehension, combined with the sword Tao Law he mastered and the rewards of the task, Lu Yi had finally cultivated star cutting to level 2. Although it was only level 2, after all, this was an immortal technique, which naturally could not be compared to any arts in the mortal world, and it was one of Lu Yi's trump cards. Indeed, with the level 2 star cutting, Lu Yi was able to slay all the Qi clan cultivators in front of him with a single sword strike, including 3 great powers of the Mahayana realm, and even one was a terrifying existence at the peak of Great Mahayana. Perhaps only a tribulation-crossing ancestor would be able to withstand such a sword strike, right? However, although star cutting was powerful, it consumed too much spiritual energy. You should know, Lu Yi's foundation was almost solid to the extreme, and he even controlled his strength specifically. Yet, this single sword strike still used up a third of his spiritual energy. After 3 sword strikes, Lu Yi would be devoid of any spiritual energy. Lu Yi sighed, finding the quality of his spiritual energy was still a bit lacking. When the time comes to be on par with the tribulation-crossing ancestor, using star cutting probably won't consume so much. Shortly afterward, Lu Yi thought of something and stiffened. He had carelessly destroyed the corpses of those Qi clan members. Those were 3 black water flood dragons of the Mahayana realm. Their flesh was incredibly precious. Lu Yi's heart clenched in pain for a moment. But soon, his eyes lit up as he noticed that lights were flickering in the sky. Interspatial rings. The interspatial rings of great Mahayana beings were certainly extraordinary. They were their entire fortune and needed to be well protected. The interspatial rings of great Mahayana cultivators were extremely valuable, naturally not easy to break, not even by the unleashed sword light of star cutting. Lu Yu was overjoyed, gesturing with his hand. He collected all the interspatial rings. Liu Ningxuang and the other two flew up to him at this moment, their expressions full of disbelief as they looked at Lu Yi. "Freak junior brother, you're getting more and more freakish," Jian Ruyu exclaimed. Lu Yi frowned, giving Jian Ruyu a threatening glare. Facing Lu Yi's threat, Jian Ruyu was not at all afraid. She never gave up until she reached the Yellow River. Liu Ningxuang's cool pupils also shook violently. She said in awe, "Junior brother, you really are getting more and more formidable. Even cultivators at the peak of Great Mahayana can't withstand your single sword strike." Yunzai nodded in agreement. "I thought I could narrow the gap with you, Lu Yi, after transforming into an immortal body, but it turns out that the gap hasn't narrowed. It's actually even wider." Lu Yi smiled slightly. "I now command the laws. Naturally, I am a bit stronger than you all. You have immortal bodies and will definitely become immortals in the future, and your domains have already reached more than 90% of perfection. Perhaps it won't be long before you can comprehend the laws. Then you won't be weak either." Hearing Lu Yi's words, Liu Ningxuang and the others' eyes brightened, and they all showed smiles. "Junior brother is right. Maybe it won't be long before we too can command the laws," Liu Ningxuang said with a smile. Jian Ruyu and Yunzai also nodded slightly. "All right, let's leave this place for now. The disturbance here was so big, it might draw the attention of powerful Qi clan members," Lu Yi said with a smile. Liu Ningxuang and the others nodded in agreement. The four of them transformed into streams of light and vanished from their spot. Having left the area for a while, Lu Yi and his group used the 1,000 transformation skill to alter their appearances. Then, Lu Yi discreetly applied the small deduction skill to muddle their karmic destinies, to prevent their vital energies from being spied upon. This was something Lu Yi picked up when he was previously chased. Tiananmen had no lack of strange and extraordinary figures, and perhaps there were cultivators like those of the Heavenly Origin sect, adept in the arts of divination. In such cases, it would be easy to deduce their whereabouts. However, having mastered the small deduction skill and disrupted the karmic destiny, Lu Yi naturally wouldn't be deduced. After completing everything, Lu Yi felt at ease. The group continued towards the coastal regions, and during this period, Lu Yi claimed various task rewards, reaping a rich harvest. In particular, for the Water Tao Enlightenment and Water Law, Lu Yi set up a great array before beginning his understanding, to avoid attracting attention with too large of an anomaly. The last time Lu Yi absorbed the Water Law, it already drew some Qi clan cultivators due to the anomaly. This time, he wouldn't make the same mistake. He used the same array as last time, strong enough to resist the anomaly. After absorbing the Water Tao Enlightenment and Water Law, Lu Yi's water domain finally reached perfection. Coupled with the 2 strands of Water Law he obtained earlier, he had completely mastered the Water Law. Chapter 437, 191, Sorting Out the Heavenly Mechanism 3. Chapter 437, Chapter 191, Sorting Out the Heavenly Mechanism /3. This was the second law-level power that Lu Yi had mastered after the Sword Tao Law. Originally, because junior brother Jiang Fan was not strong enough, and also due to many years without sparring, Lu Yi's understanding of the Water Tao had almost come to a standstill. Unexpectedly, after arriving at the Qi clan battlefield, the understanding of the Water Tao he gained through task rewards increased so rapidly. It actually advanced directly to the law level. This was something Lu Yi had not anticipated himself. Of course, this was also related to Lu Yi's own powerful strength. He had killed many formidable opponents from the Qi clan, including several unification great powers and even great Mahayana figures. Naturally, the rewards were substantial. This was quite reasonable. Of course, while it was reasonable for Lu Yi, it left Liu Ningxuang and the other two doubting their own lives. In addition to the Sword Tao Law, Lu Yi had now also attained an understanding of the Water Law, which was simply preposterous. Jian Ruyu kept exclaiming that Lu Yi was a freak, and Liu Ningxuang and Yunzai were also incredibly shocked. Apart from the insights into the Water Tao and Water Law, the rewards also included a top-grade spiritual artifact, the Mist Pearl, and a top-grade spiritual artifact, the Xuanbing Jade Robe. The Mist Pearl was a very rare exotic spirit device that could release a fog imbued with the power of illusion, enveloping an area. If the spiritual power was sufficient, it could even trap a tribulation-crossing ancestor, indicating its tremendous power. The Xuanbing Jade robe was equally a precious spiritual artifact, possessing a powerful Xuanbing shield that could withstand an attack from a tribulation-crossing practitioner. Not only that, but it could also significantly enhance the power of ice-based techniques and increase the absorption rate of ice-based cultivation techniques. For a cultivator practicing the Ice Tao, this was an extremely precious spiritual artifact. Although this spiritual artifact was also useful to Lu Yi, it was not as beneficial to him as it would be to his junior sister. Lu Yi thus gave the Xuanbing Jade robe to his junior sister. Liu Ningxuang did not hesitate at all, directly accepting Lu Yi's reward. After all, she already owed Lu Yi too many things, so she no longer cared. Just as Ruyu said, she was prepared to dedicate herself. Thinking of this, Liu Ningxuang's cheeks still blushed slightly. After fully absorbing their gains, which took half a month, Lu Yi and the others finally continued toward the seaside. At this moment in the Sea Clan's base at Tiandong City, the atmosphere was somewhat tense. A tall, dark-haired black water flood dragon tribulation-crossing ancestor with a grim expression stood shaking the space around him with his aura, rippling like water. He slowly spoke, "They haven't been found yet." In front of this tribulation-crossing ancestor, a great Mahayana black water flood dragon with an equally ugly expression shook his head. "No, we haven't found them. We've searched in the direction where Brother Li and his group disappeared, and we haven't found any trace of the culprit, not even a single clue. Even Ancestor Mu Yuan used the heavenly mechanism technique and couldn't locate them, for a superior being has disrupted the heavenly mechanism, making it untraceable." Hearing this, the tribulation-crossing ancestor's expression turned even colder. HMPH, Mu Yuan is becoming weaker with age, unable to find a mere individual. Who is it? Who dares to continuously slaughter the mighty figures of my Black Water Flood Dragon clan? Let me find him. I will certainly reduce him to ashes. The great Mahayana Black Water Flood Dragon did not dare to speak, as naturally, only the person before him could dare to speak so about Mu Yuan, who was also a tribulation-crossing ancestor. "Ancestor, shall we continue to attack?" this great Mahayana Black Water Flood Dragon asked cautiously. At this, the tribulation-crossing ancestor's expression darkened, and he fell silent. He snorted coldly and then spoke. "In just a few days, we've lost precisely 3 great Mahayana cultivators and more than 20 Unification Realm cultivators. How can we fight? Go and request more people from our clan." The great Mahayana Realm's Black Water Flood Dragon Great Power opened his mouth, wanting to say that after years of constant war, the losses among the strong within their clan were huge. Continuing this way was not a solution. However, seeing the cold gaze of the tribulation-crossing ancestor, he could only nod reluctantly. Meanwhile, not far from Tiandong City, in Moon Spirit City, Heavenly Dragon Holy Land's Long Ming ancestor and Divine Sword Sex ancestor Fang Tianyao stood on the city wall, looking towards Tiandong City with puzzlement in their eyes. "What's going on with the Sea Clan? I heard from scouts that a large number of cultivators have already entered Tiandong City and should be ready for a major battle, so why haven't they attacked yet?" Long Ming ancestor asked, perplexed. Ancestor Fang Tianyao, with a fierce expression, responded sharply, "HMPH. Perhaps they are plotting something evil, maybe waiting for us to lower our guard." Behind the two ancestors, there were many great Mahayana, as well as the heavenly dragon Saint Sun and other geniuses from Immortal sect Holy Lands. They too were completely baffled. Tei Saint Sun, dressed in white, stood with his hands behind his back, gentlemanly and elegant like a graceful young master. He glanced at the heavenly dragon Saint Sun beside him and casually asked, "Long Yashin, I heard you met Brother Lu on the way here." As soon as these words were spoken, they caught the attention of the surrounding Saint Sons and Saintesses. The mere mention of Lu Yi's name was enough to draw the interest of these most powerful talents from the Eastern domain. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun glanced at the Tei Saint Sun and asked, "What's it to you?" Tei Saint Sun was not offended and responded with a slight smile. "Brother Lu is an unparalleled genius in our Tao, and in East Bright City, he even helped our sect's Lin Yunfeng Elder annihilate Sea Clan powerhouses. Naturally, our Tei Holy Land is waiting for him to enter the Tei Array map, so naturally, we are concerned about him." Hearing this, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's face turned dark, and he scoffed. What do you know about our Array Tao genius? Brother Lu's talent in body refinement surpasses the Array Tao by 100-fold. You understand nothing. Wang Kaifeng laughed from the side. Long Yashin, you shouldn't say that. Brother Lu's sword talent is evident to all. Feng Buming also nodded with a smile. Brother Lu's talent in sword Dao is incomparable to body refinement and Array Tao. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun glanced at Wang Kaifeng and coldly said, Wang Kaifeng, Feng Buming, both of you are mediocre in strength, but talented in talking. What? Haven't you had enough of my beating? Hearing this, both Wang Kaifeng and Feng Buming frowned, with Wang Kaifeng retorting coldly, It's only because our sect's junior sister Ruyu isn't here, otherwise there would be no room for your arrogance. Remembering the sword that annihilated a unification fourth layer great power a few days earlier, the heavenly dragon Saint Sun's face stiffened, and he snorted coldly, Too bad, you're not Ruyu. Come on, we are all friends, why fight about this? Brother Long, did you really meet Brother Lu? How is he now? Thunder Sound Holy Land Saintess Laetianian chimed in with a smile, trying to diffuse the tension. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun, seeing the Thunder Sound Saintess speak, smiled and said, Brother Lu is doing very well. Where is he now? Laetianian asked with a sparkle in her eyes, smiling. He's ventured deep into the Sea Clan territory with 3 wives, planning to head to the ocean. The heavenly dragon Saint Sun replied. Wives? Thunder Sound Saintess and several other female scions from the Immortal sect Holy Lands and Great Sects saw their smiles slowly fade, as a chilling coldness spread out, making all the male cultivators present feel an intense chill. Meanwhile, Lu Yi and his group continued to venture deeper. Before long, they spotted another Sea Clan great power quickly flying towards Tiandong City. Lu Yi was startled, then his eyes lit up. Another great power has arrived. The task reward was in hand, wasn't it? Chapter 438, 192, The Strange Power on Mist Island. Chapter 438, Chapter 192, The Strange Power on Mist Island. A purple-haired great Mahayana from the Sea Clan, handsome in appearance, was currently leading 4 Unification Realm great powers and a group of Sea Clan cultivators at the Cave Void Divinity Transformation stage, flying towards Tiandong City. A Unification Realm Black Water Flood Dragon complained. Why does the Black Abyss ancestor ask for support from within the clan again? Weren't the reinforcements we sent before enough for a few battles? Another Unification Black Water Flood Dragon spoke up. It said that the Black Abyss ancestor and the Xuanwang Dragon Python clan have become quite close. Maybe they offered him some benefits. Every time there's a great war, he spares no effort and rushes to the front. The purple-haired great Mahayana frowned and said, All right, the affairs of the clan's ancestors are not for you to discuss. Hearing this, the other 4 Unification great powers exchanged glances and spoke no more. At that moment the great Mahayana shouted, Everyone, be alert. The Black Abyss ancestor doesn't ask for support without reason. It's said that many strong members of our clan were ambushed and killed on the way to Tiandong City, and to this day, no one has found out who did it. Hearing this, a few Unification great powers exchanged glances, looking at one another, then one of them spoke. Could the rumors be true? I thought it was just some baseless speculation. Exactly, who would dare to assassinate our strongmen within our territory, and without leaving any trace at all? The other 3 Unification great powers also wore expressions of disbelief. The great Mahayana furrowed his brows. This matter is true, otherwise, even the Black Abyss ancestor wouldn't call for help. Just then, all of the Sea Clan cultivators simultaneously felt a terrifying aura surge up from the ground. An extraordinarily splendid silver radiance scattered, and in an instant, the consciousness of all Sea Clan cultivators dispersed, their bodies dissolving into a mist of blood. In the distance, Lu Yi and his 3 companions rose into the air, and with a sweep of his hands, Lu Yi collected the interspatial rings left by the fallen great Mahayana Sea Clan cultivators, then turned into a fleeting light, taking Liu Ningxuang and the others and disappearing from the spot, concealing their presence and fame. After leaving, Lu Yi was satisfied as he checked the rewards from the task. Because it involved great Mahayana cultivators, the rewards were still substantial. 10 pieces of million-year-old spirit jade and the Xuanbing jade marrow, a heavenly material and earthly treasure of the Mahayana realm, along with the enlightenment of the water Tao. Lu Yi found a quiet place, absorbed all the enlightenment of the water Tao, but regrettably, The water law was too high level, so even the water Tao enlightenment rewarded by great Mahayana cultivators still couldn't improve much. Afterward, Lu Yi and his companions continued moving towards the East Sea domain. Lu Yi wondered if they could encounter more Sea clan powerhouses, but unfortunately, they didn't encounter any more. Although Lu Yi felt some regret, he didn't mind too much, as traveling was the most important thing. Lu Yi occasionally used the small deduction skill, and as they drew closer to the East Sea domain, he deduced the position of Mist Island more precisely, no longer vague like the approximate location he had at the beginning. According to the deduced information, Lu Yi led Liu Ningxuang and the others to change course repeatedly, while also avoiding the Sea clan's strongholds. The closer they got to the eastern domain sea area, the more ancient cities and war camps of the Sea clan there were, and Lu Yi even felt terrifying presences from several ancient cities. Now Lu Yi, capable of slaying great Mahayana cultivators, felt an extreme danger from these presences. It was conceivable that they were tribulation-crossing ancestors. Lu Yi cautiously led Liu Ningxuang and the others around the areas with tribulation-crossing ancestors. After more than half a month of traveling, they finally arrived at the seashore. The azure sea churned, endless as far as the eye could see. Both Liu Ningxuang and Jian Ruyu had been to the seaside before, so they weren't particularly amazed. But for Yunzai, who saw the sea for the first time, she couldn't help but marvel continuously, surprised by the vastness of the ocean. After reaching the seaside, Lu Yi found an uninhabited area, set up a great array, and deduced again. After the deduction was over, Lu Yi coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, his breath somewhat weak. Although Lu Yi's deduction was about the location of Mist Island, which involved an immortal, even if it wasn't a direct deduction, the backlash became more severe as they got closer. The retaliation was enough to reduce a unification realm cultivator to dust, and it was only because Lu Yi's own body was sufficiently strong that he hadn't suffered significant injuries. However, Lu Yi had confirmed the direction. He opened his eyes, a hint of joy flashing in them, this way. Lu Yi led Liu Ningxuang and the other two towards a part of the sea near the south. Following Lu Yi, Jian Ruyu asked curiously, "Abnormal junior brother, where do you plan to take us?" Both Liu Ningxuang and Yun Zai looked on with curiosity. Lu Yi smiled and said, "Have you ever heard of the legend of Mist Island in the eastern domain sea area?" The three exchanged glances and shook their heads. "What place is that?" Lu Yi told them the legend of Mist Island, and all three widened their eyes, utterly astonished. "It's incredible what exists in the vast world. I never imagined such a place," exclaimed Yunzai. "Junior brother, you can find Mist Island." Liu Ningxuang was intelligent, guessing what Lu Yi intended to do now. Jian Ruyu and Yunzai were surprised, looking at Lu Yi. Lu Yi nodded and said with a smile, "Yes." This made all three of them light up with excitement. After all, this was a place related to immortals. However, they were also a bit worried, for the rumors suggested that even tribulation-crossing ancestors might not come out alive from there. Lu Yi reassured them that he wouldn't go deep. He only wanted to have a look at Mist Island. Chapter 439, 192, Chapter The Strange Force on Mist Island 2. Chapter 439, 192, Chapter The Strange Force on Mist Island /2. Hearing this, the three of them finally relaxed. In the eastern domain sea area, aside from the Sea clan, there were also many fierce and terrifying sea beasts. When Lu Yi and the others were crossing the sky, they saw a silver fish thousands of kilometers long shoot up into the heavens, its silver scales glittering in the sunlight, emanating an aura of the unification realm. They also spotted the huge tentacles of an octopus stirring the azure sea, causing terrible currents to ripple. The aura of that octopus was as profound as an abyss belonging to the Mahayana realm. And there were various other sea beasts. Many sea beasts were incredibly strong, even far surpassing the fierce beasts on land. After all, the sea area was larger than the Tiananmen continent, and the struggle for survival within was even more intense. The sea beasts were incomparably ferocious. With the power of the water law, Lu Yi was like a fish in water in the sea. Moreover, by concealing their aura, they did not startle the sea beasts. They flew silently for a whole day, passing several islands. These islands all bore the traces of fierce battles. Lu Yi even saw a sect's ruins on one of the islands, clearly the result of an invasion by the Sea clan. A day later, with the sun high in the sky, Lu Yi and the four of them stopped above a stretch of the sea. A puzzled look appeared on Luya's face as he muttered to himself, "It should be here, why isn't it?" One day earlier, Luya had used the small deduction skill to deduce the location of Mist Island. It was supposed to be in this region, but after searching for a long time and scouring the nearby area, Luya still had not found Mist Island. This made Luya somewhat puzzled and confused. Liu Ningxuang, Jian Ruyu, and Yunzai were also searching not far from Luya. The four of them searched for Mist Island in a carpet-style approach, with no progress so far. Just then, Yunzai suddenly let out an exclamation from a distance, attracting Luya's attention. Luya turned his head to look over. Following that, Luya saw white mist appearing abruptly near Yunzai, the fog churning and spreading rapidly in all directions. Luya's pupils contracted slightly, followed by a burst of joy. Mist Island. Luya flew towards Yunzai, while Liu Ningxuang and Jian Ruyu from the other areas also took notice and flew over. The four of them gathered, looking at the spreading fog with some trepidation. The fog quickly spread over 1,000 kilometers, turning the whole region white and obscuring the view inside. However, not long after, the white mist roiled and became transparent. Above the previously empty sea, a huge island appeared. That island exuded an incredibly rich aura of spiritual energy, almost condensing into a fog of spirit, which even Lu Yi and the others standing far away could clearly feel the terrifying fluctuations of spiritual energy. Yet the island itself was very serene, seemingly without any strong presences inside. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows, somewhat puzzled. According to what Brother Jiang Fan had said before, there should be a giant snake on Mist Island, but it was nowhere to be seen. "Is this Mist Island? It just appeared out of nowhere," Yunzai said, her expression one of surprise. Jian Ruyu frowned as she observed the distant island, troubled by understanding. How did it appear? There was no way to sense it at all. Luya nodded in agreement. "Indeed, I didn't feel it either." Liu Ningxuang turned to Luya. "Junior brother, shall we go in?" Luya looked at Mist Island in the distance, nodded slightly, and smiled. "Of course we should go in, but let's stick to the seaside and avoid approaching the central area. After all, even a tribulation-crossing ancestor could perish on this island. No matter how confident Luya was, he dared not fly directly over it from the sky. He now had two tasks related to Mist Island. One was to find Mist Island, and the other was to explore Mist Island. He glanced at the task panel. The first task was already complete. For the second task, Luya naturally planned to accomplish as much as he could. If he couldn't finish it this time, he could always come back when he was stronger. There was no need to risk his life. If they encountered danger, Luya would decisively escape with Liu Ningxuang and the others. Luya led Liu Ningxuang and the others to approach Mist Island from the seaside, being very cautious along the way, even taking out a space transfer talisman, ready to teleport should danger arise. However, there were no incidents on the way, and the four of them quickly crossed tens of kilometers, arriving at the beach of Mist Island. As soon as they set foot on the beach, the island, which had been as still as a phantom, seemed to come to life. Luya felt a myriad of powerful auras lurking in the forest within the beach, these auras like abysses, like demons and gods. He felt numerous great power-level auras. Auras below the level of great power were even more abundant. Roars and shrieks emanated continuously from the depths of Mist Island. This made Jian Ruyu and the others look on in astonishment, eyes wide. Why didn't we detect any auras from the air before? Luya surveyed the surroundings, entertaining a notion that even he found hard to believe. This Mist Island seems to be in a different space altogether. Only by entering Mist Island completely do we enter this space, while looking down from the sky reveals only the island's projection. In fact, had it not been for Luya's extreme sensitivity to space, due to the cultivation of the small void technique to the limit, allowing him to keenly sense the difference after setting foot on Mist Island, he would not have been able to reach such a conclusion. What? Jian Ruyu and the others were utterly shocked. In a separate space, could it be a sort of small world? Yunzai speculated. Chapter 440, 192, The Strange Power on Mist Island 3. Chapter 440, Chapter 192, The Strange Power on Mist Island /3. No, that's not right. A small world does have an entrance indeed, but the whole world shouldn't be projected outside. Jian Ruyu shook her head. Since the Divine Sword sect possessed a small world, Jian Ruyu had the authority to speak on the subject. Liu Ningxuang furrowed her brows. Then how is this possible? Jian Ruyu shook her head. I don't know either. I've always felt there's something very strange about this place. Jian Ruyu shrunk her neck slightly, feeling a chill. Yunzai looked around, then turned to Lu Yi. Lu Yi, what should we do? Lu Yi gazed deep into Mist Island, pondered for a moment, and then sensed the presence of powerful, fierce beasts within. But so far, none had given him the impression of extreme danger. For the short term, there should be no threat. Moreover, since Brother Jiang Fan and the others could enter the forest, it indicated that the path ahead was not dangerous, and they could proceed to check it out. With this thought, Lu Yi spoke up. Let's walk further inside. However, you three must follow me closely and stay alert for safety. The three, Liu Ningxuang included, nodded in agreement. Leading the way, Lu Yi, with the sword Tao Law circulating around him, ventured deeper into the island. The trees within the island were tall and massive, their dense canopies obscuring the sunlight, making the inside dim and gloomy. But the group of four could see in the dark, feeling nothing amiss. Along the way, they did encounter some fierce beasts, but these creatures were weak, merely at the Golden Core realm, and posed no danger to them. What surprised them, however, was that the forest was teeming with treasures. Precious heavenly materials and earthly treasures were found everywhere, prompting gasps of amazement from the three of Jian Ruyu. This is Ice Spirit Grass. Earth Essence Stone. Isn't this the 10,000-year-old purple sunflower? Even such heavenly materials and earthly treasures are here. There are so many treasures here. It's as if they are scattered on the ground for people to pick up. All three found it hard to believe. Even Lu Yi was stunned. Although these items were insignificant to him, the sheer abundance was startling. These heavenly materials and earthly treasures would be fiercely contested for if placed outside. Previously, Brother Jiang Fan and the other two had obtained some heavenly materials and earthly treasures here, which allowed Tai Man and Bai Yulong to grasp conception and rise to prominence. As the four pushed on, the fierce beast's strength grew, as did the preciousness of the heavenly materials and earthly treasures they contained. However, Lu Yi now sensed a palpitation-inducing presence emanating from a great distance, growing stronger as the group drew closer. Not only Lu Yi felt this sensation, but Liu Ningxuang and the others did as well. Being significantly less powerful than Lu Yi, they turned pale and horror flickered in their eyes as they sensed this aura. Such a powerful presence. What kind of aura is that? It feels like one could die at any moment. All four immediately halted their steps. Liu Ningxuang glanced at a corpse on the ground, a pitch-black panther with a cultivation base at the divinity transformation realm. She expressed her astonishment. This panther is so weak, how does it manage to survive here? Lu Yi and the others were similarly puzzled. Indeed, not just this panther, there are many more fierce beast presences inside with not such high cultivation bases. How do they manage to live inside? Yunzai was immensely curious. Jian Ruyu speculated. Could it be that these fierce beasts have always lived here, so they are accustomed to it? However, nobody knew for certain, finding it very strange. Just then, a hint of black fog suddenly arose around Yunzai, whose cultivation base was the weakest. Soon, black patterns began to creep onto Yunzai's snowy body, and a look of pain appeared on her face. Lu Yi's face changed slightly. Yunzai, what's wrong? I feel so uncomfortable. A green lotus mark condensed between Yunzai's brows while streams of Tao light revolved around her, resisting the black fog. Despite this effort, she was still unable to fully block it, and the black patterns slowly began to appear on Yunzai's face. Black fog gradually emerged on senior sister Ruyu and Liu Ningxuang as well. Lu Yi furrowed his brows, swept up the three of them, transformed into a streak of light and vanished on the spot, moving towards the outside. It didn't take long before they arrived at the beach. The black fog on senior sister Ruyu and Liu Ningxuang started to dissipate, and the fog around Yunzai also became much fainter, with the black patterns on her body no longer spreading. Accompanied by the flash of the Tao light belonging to the 10,000-flower immortal body, the black patterns were slowly being erased. However, the process was extremely slow. Lu Yi furrowed his brows, took Yunzai's hand, and a flow of spiritual energy infused with the power of Tao rushed into Yunzai's body. He felt a profound yet chaotic power entangling inside Yunzai, trying to fully invade her flesh. What kind of power is this? Lu Yi was somewhat astonished. He sensed that this power was extremely strong, yet eerily peculiar. As a possessor of the 10,000-flower immortal body, Yunzai had an incredibly strong physical foundation, which was resisting the invasion and was slowly eliminating this power. Naturally, Lu Yu was not going to stand idly by. As his spiritual energy surged in, the power of Tao rippled and rushed towards the strange force. At the touch of the power of Tao, the enigmatic force dissipated as quickly as bubbles. Lu Yi was a bit surprised, but then quickly realized that the power of Tao far surpasses ordinary spiritual energy. Even the energy within an immortal body like Yunzai's was incomparable. If even Yunzai's spiritual energy could erase such a power, the power of Tao was naturally even more effortless. As the power of Tao flowed into Yunzai's body, the bizarre force rapidly dispersed and was finally completely eradicated, and the black patterns on her body dissipated as well. Still somewhat anxious, Lu Yi used spiritual energy to thoroughly sift through Yunzai's body once more, and seeing there were no lingering effects, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yunzai opened her eyes, looking somewhat weak. Senior sister Ruyu and Liu Ningxuang at her side wore looks of concern, watching Yunzai. "Yunzai, how are you? Are you all right?" Senior sister Ruyu asked. She and Liu Ningxuang had been practicing dual cultivation with Lu Yi for over a decade, closer than even real sisters, so seeing Yunzai like this, she was very worried. Yunzai frowned and said, "I'm fine now." Liu Ningxuang breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good." Lu Yi asked, "Yunzai, what happened just now?" Yunzai shook her head. "I don't know either. Suddenly, I heard chaotic voices near my ears, and then terrifying thoughts appeared in my mind as if something eerie wanted to reincarnate inside me." This made all three of them furrow their brows. Senior sister Ruyu and Liu Ningxuang looked at each other. Liu Ningxuang said gravely, "Just now, I also felt intermittent and chaotic voices arising in my mind, making me feel very uncomfortable." Senior sister Ruyu nodded in agreement. "Me too." Lu Yi, remembering that both had traces of black fog around them before leaving, narrowed his eyes. "It seems there's some issue with the thing inside. Senior sister Ruyu and sister Liu are both powerful, and as immortal bodies, for them to experience such strange sensations. What exactly is inside there?" As Lu Yi pondered, a crack suddenly appeared in the nearby sky, and the next moment, a figure slowly emerged from the rift. Chapter 441, 193. Encounter with the Immortal Sword Immortal, Jihu. Chapter 441, Chapter 193. Encounter with the Immortal Sword Immortal, Jihu. He was a young man with a golden sword pattern on his brow, handsome features, dressed in a white robe. A golden longsword floated by the young man's side. He was none other than the sword Immortal of the Immortal Sword Sect, who had been in slumber for 1,000,000 years. This sword Immortal stepped out of a space crack, the crack behind him slowly closing and then disappearing. The sea below him became calm, as if it dared not disturb the Immortal. The eyes of this sword Immortal were serene, as he looked towards the distant Mist Island. The next moment, he took a step forward and instantly appeared above Mist Island. After that, a roar akin to one from the abyss echoed from within Mist Island, and a terrifying black fog slowly emerged from the central peak of the island. Boom! A gigantic serpent shadow in pitch black emerged, soaring into the sky as if piercing through space to the heavens above, its body thousands of meters long, covered with scales black as iron, surrounded by swirling black mist, its eyes dark red, a bizarre mix of madness and calm. In the face of the giant serpent, the sword Immortal remained expressionless. His long sword hummed, unleashing an incredibly powerful sword intent. Golden sword light burst forth like a pillar, penetrating heaven and earth, causing fierce waves to surge on the sea's surface. The aura seemed to travel through the endless void, entering another dimension. The awakening power of an immortal artifact was terrifyingly powerful, with repercussions spreading out for 1,000,000 kilometers. Within the Sea Clan and on land, a great number of powerful entities opened their eyes, looking towards the column of golden sword light piercing heaven and earth in utter astonishment. What is that? This power, is it the descent of an immortal? The descent of an immortal heralds great disaster. Go and have a look. One after another, exceedingly powerful figures flew out from various regions, heading towards the direction where the golden sword light was located. Most of these figures were cultivators of the Mahayana realm, and there were even numerous tribulation-crossing ancestors. Besides them, there were even a few terrifying entities beyond the tribulation transcendence realm. Void Immortals. Inside Mist Island, Lu Yi and his three companions noticed the anomaly the moment the roar sounded. All four of their faces changed dramatically as they looked up towards the center of Mist Island. The emergence of black mist and the terrifying, sinister power made all four of them tremble with fear. "What is that?" Just as Giant Ryu uttered these words, a huge serpent shadow burst forth into the sky. Seeing the shadow, Lu Yi's pupils constricted. He remembered what Brother Jiang Fan and the others had mentioned before. This gigantic serpent shadow was likely the same shadow they had previously seen. The aura emanating from the black serpent was too powerful and sinister, posing an extreme threat even to Lu Yi, a threat that could endanger his life. Even the aura of the tribulation, crossing ancestors, that Lu Yi had felt before paled in comparison to the serpent. An immortal, or a void immortal, Lu Yi frowned, murmuring to himself. Then he suddenly widened his eyes, realizing that, unknown to him, a tiny figure had appeared in front of the giant serpent. With Lu Yi's eyesight, he could naturally see the figure's appearance, with handsome features and a golden sword pattern on his brow, and a golden long sword floating around him. It was all too familiar. Isn't that the sword Immortal from the Immortal sword sect? Not only did Lu Yi see the sword Immortal, but Jian Ryu did as well, his pupils constricting as he exclaimed in shock. Back in the ruins of the Immortal sword sect, not only had Lu Yi seen the sword Immortal, but Jian Ryu as well. The impression had been profound. Both Yun Zai and Liu Ningxuang had never seen this sword Immortal before, and hearing Jian Ryu's words, they were both extremely shocked. "What, that one is an Immortal?" The sword Immortal from the Immortal sword sect. Wasn't it said that he went to the forbidden area of the extreme North Ice Field? How come he is here? Lu Yi shook his head, his eyes filled with amazement. "I don't know, but for this black serpent to dare stand in front of that sword Immortal, it must be rather extraordinary." This was looking to be a battle between immortals. At that moment, black mist also began swirling abruptly around Jian Ryu and the other two. Lu Yi raised an eyebrow. The sword Dao Law surged, fully suppressing the space around them, causing the black mist to slowly dissipate. When Lu Yi had investigated Yun Zai's body before, he had realized that even law-level power could suppress this black mist. With Lu Yi in possession of the law, he faced no great danger from such black mist. Liu Ningxuang exhaled a breath of turbid air, speaking. That strange sound was heard by my ears again. Lu Yi furrowed his brows, glancing at the sky. Perhaps it's because of that giant serpent's influence. That serpent seemed extremely strong, the black mist swirling around its body, and it might affect the entire Mist Island. Just then golden light suddenly shone in the sky. A column of golden light pierced heaven and earth, the dreadful sword intent making Lu Yi and his companions' eyes widen in terror. If not for Lu Yi's grasp of sword Dao Law, such sword intent could have been impossible for them to withstand. "Are they going to make a move?" Jian Ryu cried out in shock. The next moment, the black serpent also spat out a terrifying black flame. The black flame collided with the golden sword light. Boom! A roar erupted, its shockwaves ruthlessly violent. Lu Yi and the others felt a force so dreadful it alarmed them to their core. Just as Lu Yi was about to leave with Liu Ningxuang and the others, suddenly, an invisible force halted the shockwaves, preventing them from reaching Mist Island. All four were taken aback. Lu Yi thought of something. It's a spatial barrier. Mist Island is in another space. The barrier has blocked the shockwaves. Chapter 442, 193. Encounter with the Immortal Sword Immortal, Jiu 2. Chapter 442, Chapter 193. Encounter with the Immortal Sword Immortal, Jiu /2. Liu Ningxuang and the others all breathed a sigh of relief. "I thought we were going to die." Jian Ryu was incredibly alarmed. That aftermath made me feel completely defenseless. Yun Zai nodded as well, indeed. Just then, an extremely terrifying hissing sound rose from the collision area. Lu Yi and his companions were startled and looked in the direction of the sound. However, the golden and black light was so brilliant that even Lu Yi couldn't make out the scene inside. He could only see that, under the ravaging aftermath, the entire ocean seemed to evaporate. The waters where Lu Yi's eyes reached were hollowed out, revealing the seabed below. Countless sea beasts were directly turned into ashes by the terrible force. He even saw a giant sea turtle, as large as a hill, whose shell was cracked and slowly disintegrating. That was a Tribulation Transcendence realm sea turtle. Lu Yi was incredibly alarmed, grateful they were inside Mist Island. Otherwise, they could only have escaped using the teleportation talisman. As the aftermath gradually dissipated, Lu Yi could slowly make out the scene in the sky. However, soon, Lu Yi's eyes widened in some astonishment as he stared into the sky. In the direction of the sky, that immensely terrifying black serpent was now covered with dense golden sword traces. The sword traces, imbued with the immortal law's sword intent, were indestructible, and even the black mist flowing around the serpent's body could not erase the sword intent. The giant serpent kept shrieking miserably, tumbling in the sky. Terrifying spatial cracks appeared in the sky, the serpent's body probing into the spatial cracks. Still, the spatial storm striking its body caused no damage. On the other hand, that immortal sword-sex sword Immortal at this moment had an expression as calm as always, unchanging. By his side, the immortal sword floated, still containing a strand of golden immortal sword light, marking the remnants of his earlier move. "He's too strong," Jian Ruyu was greatly alarmed, murmuring. Lu Yi also nodded. "Exactly, even a tribulation-crossing ancestor can hardly withstand the space storm, yet this serpent seemed completely unaffected. Despite this, the immortal sword Immortal's single strike gravely wounded it. The strength of this immortal sword Immortal is truly terrifying. What exactly is that serpent, and why would this immortal of the immortal sword sect make a move against it?" Yunzai asked curiously. Lu Yi shook his head, equally clueless. Just then, the immortal sword Immortal's gaze swept over toward Mist Island below, pausing for a second when he saw Lu Yi and his companions, taking an extra look at Lu Yi. Lu Yi felt a bit surprised inside. It seemed the immortal sword Immortal still remembered him. The next moment, the voice of the immortal sword Immortal rang beside Lu Yi's ear. "Leave that island, it's very dangerous." Hearing this, Lu Yi was stunned momentarily but ultimately chose to trust the immortal sword Immortal. After all, the immortal sword Immortal had shown him the favor of imparting skills and probably meant him no harm. Moreover, Lu Yi inherently felt that there was a big issue with this island. Lu Yi spoke up, "We're leaving here." Liu Ningxuang and the others were taken aback, looking at Lu Yi with some astonishment. "Are we leaving?" Jian Ruyu asked. "Yes." Lu Yi gathered his companions, transformed into a stream of light, and flew out of Mist Island, crossing through the space barrier. Just at that moment, the tumbling, hissing black serpent noticed the four, and with a roar, spat out a mass of black flame, shooting it towards Lu Yi and his companions. Inside Mist Island, behind the space barrier, the sensations of this power by Lu Yi and his group were not clear. But now, as the black flame surged toward them, Lu Yi and his companions realized just how powerful it was. Absolutely irresistible. Just as Lu Yi was about to use the space talisman with his companions, a golden sword curtain appeared before the black flame, blocking it. Lu Yi and his companions all breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Yi pondered for a moment, then led Liu Ningxuang and the others to the immortal sword Immortal. "Senior, it's been a long time," Lu Yi greeted with hands clasped. The immortal sword Immortal sized up Lu Yi, a hint of astonishment appearing in his eyes. He smiled faintly. "It seems, passing on the immortal sword scripture to you was the correct choice. In just a few decades, you have already mastered a strand of immortal law and even grasped the sword Tao Law, truly a rare genius." Lu Yi smiled sheepishly. "You flatter me, senior." The immortal sword Immortal shook his head slightly, spoke up. "This isn't flattery, your talent, even when seen across the entire sky falling star domain, is among the top. Only those core descendants from the immortal venerable families are stronger than you." Sky falling star domain, immortal venerable. Lu Yi was somewhat startled as he looked at the immortal sword Immortal. The immortal sword Immortal smiled faintly. "It's natural you don't know being from Tiananmen, but soon, you will come in contact with it. With your talent, once you become an immortal, those high and mighty families of the immortal venerables will come seeking you." Hearing this, while Lu Yi was curious, seeing that the immortal sword Immortal did not intend to elaborate further, he didn't inquire more about it. "I understand, thank you for informing me, senior." The immortal sword Immortal asked, "How come you are here?" Lu Yi was startled, then responded, "We also just happened to come here by a coincidence, senior. Is there something wrong with this Mist Island?" "A coincidence?" Liu Ningxuang and the others looked at Lu Yi speechlessly. The immortal sword Immortal nodded slightly, his expression solemn as he gazed down at the island and stated, "This place is part of Jihu's land. Fortunately, you didn't venture deep. If you had gone deeper and been eroded by Jihu Qi, even an immortal would have difficulty bringing you back." Chapter 443, 193. Encounter with the Immortal Sword Immortal, Jihu 3. Chapter 443, Chapter 193. Encounter with the Immortal Sword Immortal, Jihu 3. Upon hearing these words, Lu Yi and his companions were all startled, thinking back to the black mist they had encountered earlier. That must have been the Jihu Qi. What is Jihu Qi? Lu Yi asked curiously. The Immortal Sword Immortal shook his head. This isn't something you need to understand now. He waved his hand slightly and said, "Leave now. There will be a great battle here shortly, and the entire sea realm may disappear." Hearing this, Lu Yi and the others were terrified. One could only imagine how fierce the battle would be, considering it could possibly make the entire sea realm vanish. While they were speaking, more black mists began to seep out from Mist Island below, and then a frightening and eerie power emanated from below, making Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang and the others feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave, their bodies turning cold. This power was too terrifying, and even Lu Yi felt that he couldn't resist it. It was a force beyond mortal comprehension. The Immortal Sword Immortal looked down with an increasingly solemn expression and said indifferently, "The being below has awakened. You should leave now." With a wave of the Immortal Sword Immortal's hand, Lu Yi and the others felt an irresistible force pushing them out, instantly crossing hundreds of kilometers, flying swiftly toward the distance. As the force swiftly retreated, they saw a dim light flashing from below, and a dark shadow shot out. A cold and wild voice rang out from above Mist Island. "Wang Jianyuan, you should be dead. Why have you emerged again?" The icy voice of the Immortal Sword Immortal carried a ring akin to that of a drawn sword. "Dead. I have returned from the brink of death to cast you down into Jiyu." Lu Yi wanted to hear more, but couldn't resist the force exerted by Immortal Sword Immortal King Jian Yuan, and gradually they were moved far away, unable to see Mist Island or hear the voices of the two anymore. Within moments, Lu Yi and companions had flown out of the area, covering hundreds of thousands of kilometers. At that moment, a sudden flash of golden and black light shimmered in the distance, like another sun, appearing at the other end of the horizon. The terrifying aftershocks surged with unimaginable speed, and even at the distance of hundreds of thousands of kilometers, Lu Yi and the others still felt the terrible fluctuations. Then Lu Yi saw a golden light and a black light entwined together, shooting straight into Star Universe, turning one side of the sky golden and the other black. Such a terrifying battle. Yunzai's voice trembled slightly, her eyes filled with astonishment. Liu Ningxuang and Giant Ruyu wore expressions of shock as well. Such a battle, if it were in the eastern domain, would probably destroy the entire region, Liu Ningxuang stated in astonishment. Lu Yi also looked solemn and nodded. "Fortunately, we are far away, or else it would be dangerous." Just at that moment, Lu Yi and the others sensed several fearsome presences flying towards them from the distance. Their expressions changed slightly, and turning their heads, they saw a large number of cultivators flying over quickly. These cultivators exuded incredibly strong presences, all exceeding the power of great Mahayana, and among them were several tribulation-crossing ancestors. Such commotion had attracted a large number of powerful beings. These Sea Clan cultivators also noticed Lu Yi and his three companions, all pausing in surprise. They hadn't expected to find cave, void realm cultivators here. At that moment, a Sea Clan ancestor sensed something, his expression changing suddenly, becoming incredibly fierce. "Are you Lu Yi?" Upon hearing this, a few other powerful Sea Clan beings also showed changing expressions, as killing intent surged, instantly locking onto Lu Yi. Although Lu Yi's 1,000 transformation skill was exquisite enough to change his origin to a certain extent, it naturally couldn't deceive a tribulation-crossing ancestor at such close quarters. Lu Yi's mouth twitched and his scalp tingled. So many Sea Clan leaders. Without thinking, he took out a talisman and used it on the spot. Suddenly, the silver light enveloped Lu Yi and his companions, transmitting them hundreds of thousands of kilometers away and into the eastern domain land. This was a teleportation talisman that Lu Yi had obtained from a task reward, capable of extremely distant transport. Having arrived on the land of the eastern domain, Lu Yi hadn't even had the chance to speak when he was met by another group of cultivators. This group included Eastern region practitioners as well as the Sea Clan. Similarly, there were quite a few tribulation-crossing ancestors, with Eastern region practitioners and Sea Clan cultivators clearly separated, maintaining a certain distance from each other. Lu Yi caught sight of a few faces he recognized, including Long Ming Ancestor and Ancestor Fang Tianyao. They hadn't expected Lu Yi and his companions to suddenly appear either, and were all momentarily stunned. Then Ancestor Fang Tianyao eyes lit up and he laughed. "Are you Lu Yi, kid? Ruyu." The Sea Clan cultivators on the other side also noticed them. The leading black water flood dragon ancestor was surrounded by swirling mystic water, a terrifying aura billowing out, with killing intent soaring to the skies, shattering the nearby clouds. "Lu Yi, meet your death," he roared angrily, bringing forth endless mystic water that obscured the sun, enveloping Lu Yi and his companions. Ancestor Fang Tianyao and Long Ming Ancestor were taken aback, raising their hands to unleash powerful arts, dispersing the mystic water. The two stood in front of Lu Yi and his companions, gazing coldly at the black water flood dragon ancestor on the other side. Ancestor Fang Tianyao opened coldly. "Black Abyss, you dare attempt to kill an Eastern region immortal seed. Are you seeking death?" The Black Abyss ancestor ignored Fang Tianyao, looking coldly at Lu Yi with an icy, grim gaze. "Lu Yi, did you ambush and kill our black water flood dragon great power in our Sea Clan territory?" Hearing this, Lu Yi paused, finally understanding why this old being held such a grudge against him. Without waiting for him to speak, the old being had already taken action, "So that's how it is." Lu Yi replied with a smile, "Are you talking about those few great Mahayana cultivators and several unification cultivators?" "Yes, I killed them." Hearing this, the Black Abyss ancestor and several other tribulation-crossing ancestors' mystic water swirled, their killing intent nearly materializing. "Indeed it was you. You vile creature, you're asking for death." Ancestor Fang Tianyao and the other Eastern Domain practitioners were perplexed, then appeared to understand something. Long Ming Ancestor had an odd expression, muttering, "No wonder Tiandong City hasn't sent out troops for a long time. It's because their rear was attacked." Chapter 444, 194, A Dramatic Ending. Chapter 444, Chapter 194, A Dramatic Ending. Fang Tianyao and the others all turned their heads to look at Lu Yi. Curiosity filled Fang Tianyao as he asked, "Young Lu Yi, just how many Sea Clan experts did you kill? They seem to lose their minds upon seeing you, as if you've slaughtered their entire families." Lu Yi chuckled dryly and replied, "Actually not that many. Just 4 great Mahayana cultivators, a few dozen Unification Realm cultivators. I've forgotten the exact number. As for those in the Cave Void Realm and below, I didn't really pay attention." The expressions on Fang Tianyao and the others' faces instantly became quite a spectacle. They then laughed gleefully at the misfortune. This made the elders from Black Abyss and the others even angrier, their bodies swirling with mystic water, terrifying spirit light surging around them. The next moment, several cultivation treasures appeared around them. A powerful spiritual pressure radiated from the treasures, all of which were spiritual artifacts, and there were even mid-grade spirit artifacts among them. With the addition of mid-grade spirit artifacts to a tribulation-crossing ancestor's strength, there was no need to speak of the formidable might. Even Lu Yi felt extreme danger. "Fang Tianyao, if you step aside now we can talk this out today, otherwise it's a fight to the death," Black Abyss ancestor threatened with murderous intent. "Huh, as if I am afraid of you," Elder Longming laughed coldly. The sound of a dragon's chant emanated from him as golden dragon scales appeared on his body, directly entering the heavenly dragon transformation state. The two parties faced off, their spiritual pressure shaking the very earth, causing it to tremble and crack open with giant fissures. The strength of the tribulation-crossing ancestors was too overpowering, enough to reshape the landscape. Fang Tianyao also sneered coldly, "Young Lu Yi, you take Ruyu and the others and leave first. They won't be able to catch you." Lu Yi understood that staying here was not a good idea. He nodded and smiled. "Thank you to all the elders for your assistance." Long Ming laughed, "Ha ha ha, fellow friend Lu, you're too polite. By slaying 4 great Mahayana realm members of the Sea Clan, you've made a huge contribution to our Eastern Domain. How could we stand by idly?" Lu Yi nodded, then turned with Liu Ningxuang and the other two to leave. Seeing Lu Yi and his party leaving, Black Abyss Ancestor and the other tribulation-crossing ancestors, along with the great Mahayana cultivators, were beside themselves with rage. "Where do you think you're going? Little beast, don't even think about escaping." They howled in fury, attempting to chase after Lu Yi, but were easily blocked by Fang Tianyao and the others. Considering the small gap in strength between both sides, it wasn't difficult for Fang Tianyao and Elder Long Ming, who were at the Tribulation Crossing realm, to merely hold off their equals. The roar of battle echoed through heaven and earth, the sky lit up with flashing spirit light, dazzling to behold. However, compared to the much farther away battle between Immortal Sword Immortal King Jian Yuan and the unnamed Immortal, it seemed somewhat lesser in scale. Even though Lu Yi and his group were now far from Mist Island, they could still see the black and golden light pillars in the sky and the apocalyptic black and golden skies in the distance. After moving a considerable distance away, Jian Ruyu breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I thought we were going to die there for a moment." Even Liu Ningxuang and Yun Zai had looks of palpitations on their faces. Who was that black figure who appeared later? His aura felt so strange and sinister, and it reminded me of that eerie sound we heard on Mist Island, said Yun Zai. I fear that might be the sensation of the Jihu Qi that the sword Immortal mentioned. I wonder what exactly this Jihu he referred to is, Liu Ningxuang spoke. Whatever it is, it's certainly nothing good. We're lucky to be alive after all this, to think we encountered a battle at the Immortal level. Perverse junior brother, you really gave us a scare, Jian Ruyu said to Lu Yi, somewhat reproachfully. Lu Yi smiled and said, "Isn't everything fine now? Honestly, I didn't expect the Immortal Sword Immortal to suddenly show up there." Initially, Lu Yi had only hoped to explore Mist Island a bit. When Yun Zai began to exhibit abnormalities, he was ready to leave. Yet unexpectedly, the Immortal Sword Immortal arrived, stirring up a terrifying presence on Mist Island, and everything that followed was unforeseen. All right, let's get out of here. The battle between two immortals is likely to alarm the entire Tiananmen. What happens next, nobody can be sure, Liu Ningxuang said. Lu Yi nodded, and the four of them left the Sea Clan-controlled area, soon catching sight of Moon Spirit City. Moon Spirit City was supposed to have a showdown with Tiandong City, but by fortuitous circumstance, Lu Yi had killed many of Tiandong City's powerhouses, and the great battle hadn't begun. Then an immortal-level battle like this occurred, attracting both the Sea Clan and Eastern Domain's powerhouses, leaving Moon Spirit City unusually calm at the moment. As Lu Yi's group entered Moon Spirit City, they saw many cultivators in the sky looking toward Mist Island. Even though Moon Spirit City was millions of kilometers away from Mist Island, they could still see the distant battle and feel the fluctuations of the spiritual energy. Lu Yi spotted several familiar figures in the sky, including the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, Wang Kaifeng, Feng Bumming, and the Taiyi Saint Sun, among others, the scions of various immortal sect holy lands and great sects. It seemed the claims of the heavenly dragon Saint Sun and Elder Long He were true. Many young geniuses had come to this place for training. Lu Yi noticed that Wang Kaifeng, Feng Bumming, the Taiyi Saint Sun, and the others had all grown significantly in power compared to before. While their progress was somewhat lesser than his, they had all reached the divinity transformation peak, and a few had even achieved the cave void realm. Chapter 445, 194 Dramatic End 2. Chapter 445, Chapter 194 Dramatic End /2. It goes without saying that the resources bestowed by the immortals from the immortal sect Holy Lands are a significant opportunity for them. As Lu Yi and his three companions flew over, many cultivators turned their gazes in astonishment. The outskirts of Moon Spirit City were already in the direction of the Sea Clan control zone, and it was indeed surprising to see 4 cultivators from the cave void realm come from the Sea Clan's territory. However, because Lu Yi and the others had used the 1000 transformation skill, no one recognized their identities. Lu Yi and his companions did not make themselves known, and simply stood suspended midair, watching the distant battle like everyone else. A middle-aged cultivator who had been paying attention to Lu Yi's group spoke up. "Fellow Taoist, did you come from the Sea Clan control zone? What's the situation over there? Just who is battling that it's so terrifying? I've heard the great powers say it's an immortal fighting. Is that true?" The nearby cultivators turned their curious eyes towards Lu Yi. Lu Yi replied with a smile, "We did not venture too deep, merely entering a short distance before coming out. However, the fluctuations from the battle in that direction are very strong, many times more powerful than the tribulation crossing ancestor, so I'm afraid it is indeed an immortal." Hearing this, the surrounding cultivators gasped in shock and awe. then turned their gazes back towards the direction of the battle, their expressions a mix of worry and schadenfreude. It looks like the battle is happening at sea. Hey, maybe the aftermath will wipe out the Black Water Flood Dragon clan. If that's the case, then that's good news. The Eastern Domain will be at peace. The many cultivators discussed animatedly. The battle continued for a long time, and a day later, the sky was still split into gold and black, with the distant fluctuations showing no signs of subsiding. After 3 whole days, a terrifyingly cold presence suddenly emerged in the distant sky. In the next moment, even from Moon Spirit City, Lu Yi and the others saw a pitch-black flame soaring into the sky, shooting straight into the star universe. The dreadful flame seemed to represent all the sins and negative aspects of the world, so that just one glance would chill a person to the core. Within Moon Spirit City, cultivators below the Golden Core Realm, and at the Golden Core Realm itself began to have dark mist suddenly emerging around them. The next moment, screaming filled the entire ancient city as these weaker cultivators were all affected by the Jiu Qi, their expressions twisted, their energy in turmoil, as they clutched their ears and rolled on the ground as if hearing some terrifying sound. What's happening? Those cultivators above the Golden Core Realm looked on at their disciples screaming miserably, bewildered and shocked. Just then, the sound of sword singing echoed through heaven and earth, and all cultivators felt an incredibly terrifying sword Tao presence descending from the sky, enveloping the entire Moon Spirit City. The powerful sword Tao power seemed to pervade the whole world, astonishing all cultivators. What kind of power is this? Which great power has made a move? Even the talents of the Eastern Domain, like the heavenly dragon Saint Sun, were dumbfounded, all looking around. This is the power of the sword Tao Law. Wang Kaifeng was incredibly shocked. Now that the divine sword steel could be accessed by the sex talents, Wang Kaifeng had gone to the steel numerous times to comprehend the sword Tao, which is inscribed with the sword Tao principal power. Not at all unfamiliar with the sword Tao Law, he reacted instantly. What? Sword Tao Law? Feng Bumming, who was also a sword cultivator, was extremely alarmed and quickly looked around. The nearby heavenly dragon Saint Sun and others were left speechless. Could it be that there is an immortal hiding within Moon Spirit City? No, that's impossible. Could it be that an immortal artifact has awakened, or that some kind of immortal treasure was activated? The array of talents discussed among themselves, but as the entire world was shrouded in sword Tao Law, with their realm, they naturally couldn't discern the origin. As the dreadful sword Tao power surged, the black mist around the writhing and screaming cultivators on the ground gradually dissipated, and their expressions calmed down, each falling into unconsciousness. At this moment in the distant sky, the pitch-black flame began to dissipate like bubbles, and the eerie presence slowly faded. The power from the sword Tao Law also gradually subsided. The figure of Lu Yi up in the sky slowly retracted the law and calmed down. The other cultivators were all wondering which great power had acted, but only Jian Ruyu, Liu Ningxuang, and Yunzai, who were beside Lu Yi, knew that it was Lu Yi who had used the power of laws. Looking at the dissipating Jiu Flame's pillar, Jian Ruyu was immensely shocked. Was that the Jiu Qi just now? So terrifying to think it could affect us from such a distance. If there's an impact here, then in the sea, Yunzai blinked, a strange light in her ethereal, immortal-like eyes. Lu Yi and the others also pondered this point, their expressions turning very strange. With a light smile, Liu Ningxuang said, "It seems the Sea clan has got their hands full now." Indeed. As the pitch-black flame slowly dissipated, a scream filled with anger and unwillingness echoed through the heavens, and Lu Yi recognized it as the voice of the shadow. The black light in the sky also slowly vanished, leaving only a sacred-looking golden radiance. Lu Yi's eyes lit up, and he said with a smile, "It seems that Senior Wang Jianyuan has won." "That's good. If that Jiu Immortal had won, it probably would have caused a great calamity." Liu Ningxuang and the other two breathed a sigh of relief. As the battle gradually subsided, the cultivators in the sky also realized the victory had been decided. Chapter 446, 194 Dramatic Ending 3. Chapter 446, Chapter 194 Dramatic Ending /3. All the cultivators were abuzz with speculation about the impact of the battle. However, before long, they noticed a large number of Sea Clan cultivators rising into the sky from Tiandong City, not far away, turning into streaks of light and flying towards the East Sea domain. The many cultivators were startled. After all, a great number had left, and they weren't initiating an attack on Moon Spirit City but moving backward. Then some cultivators understood what was happening and exclaimed with astonishment, "The Sea Clan, are they evacuating Tiandong City?" Others also came to the realization and showed expressions of surprise and delight. The Sea Clan has evacuated Tiandong City. The front line has been pushed back again. Let's go and see. Some bold and powerful figures turned into streaks of light, decisively flying towards the direction of Tiandong City. Soon, exciting news came through. Tiandong City had become an empty city with nothing left behind. Not a single Sea Clan cultivator remained there. Everyone had left. This thrilled the cultivators to no end, as they had recaptured Tiandong City without any fight, pushing the front line towards the sea once more. But that was not the end. Soon, more thrilling news arrived. A large number of Sea Clan cultivators are leaving the inland strongholds. All the Sea Clan cultivators are withdrawing. They are retreating to the sea. All the cultivators of the Eastern Domain Alliance Army were overjoyed. They had originally thought it was just an advancement of the front line, not expecting a complete withdrawal by the Sea Clan. After just 3 short days, Long Ming Ancestor Fang Tianyao, and other great powers who had previously gone to the East Sea Domain returned. Lu Yi and his group in the sky saw them return and noticed that a few among them, who were of the Mahayana realm, were missing. Even Long Ming Ancestor and Ancestor Fang Tianyao, who were tribulation-crossing ancestors, looked pale and their expressions still held traces of terror. They did not linger outside and quickly returned to the City Lord Mansion of Moon Spirit City. Mere hours later, news began to spread. After confirmation by the likes of Long Ming Ancestor and other tribulation-crossing ancestors, the previous battle was indeed between immortals, one of whom was even the awakened Immortal from the Immortal Sword Sect. The outcome was clearly a victory for the Immortal from the Immortal Sword Sect. Thereafter, the Immortal from the Immortal Sword Sect disappeared, and Long Ming Ancestor and others went to the battlefield. They saw the sea shattered for tens of thousands of kilometers around the East Sea, the water evaporated, and Mist Island burning with black flames, appearing to exist on the boundary between reality and illusion, with an incredibly terrifying aura circulating inside. Just a single glance resulted in several unification great powers developing black patterns on their bodies, and subsequently turning into beings that knew only destruction. One could imagine how dangerous that place was. Long Ming Ancestor and the others withdrew immediately. Of course, the Sea Clan suffered the worst fate. The vast area of the sea shattered due to the great battle between immortals, resulting in the deaths of numerous Sea Clan cultivators. Moreover, such a strange island appearing within the Sea Clan's domain forced them to keep their distance from that forbidden zone. The invasion of the Eastern Domain could no longer be sustained. All Sea Clan cultivators chose to evacuate without delay. When they heard this news, the cultivators were shocked, overjoyed, but also somewhat lost. The battle of the immortals astonished the cultivators greatly, and the mysterious small island filled them with dread. What they found most bizarre was that they had never expected the Sea Clan's invasion to end in such a manner. Even Lu Yi had never expected it. The Sea Clan was incredibly powerful, and even though they were now continuously being defeated for various reasons, to completely drive them out of the Eastern Domain land would have taken at least 100 years. Unexpectedly, the Sea Clan chose this moment to retreat, their departure as dramatic as it was sudden. For a moment, Lu Yi's heart was filled with complex emotions. When immortals fought, the mere aftershocks could inadvertently impact such a vast battlefield. It was easy to imagine just how powerful the immortals were. Below the immortals, all are but ants, came the haunting words from within the City Lord Mansion, spoken by Ancestor Long Ming, which left the cultivators of Moon Spirit City in silence. Then bursts of cheers erupted from the cultivators. With the Sea Clan leaving the Eastern Domain, it meant that their battle was also over, and the cultivators could at last return to their respective sects. This battle had been fierce, lasting for decades, but in the grand scheme of the Eastern Domain's history, it was insignificant. There had been many larger and more brutal battles than this. That very day, the cultivators in Moon Spirit City were toasting each other, holding banquets everywhere. Lu Yi and his 3 companions were low-key, but still got dragged into attending banquets by cultivators they didn't know. Everyone was happy, celebrating. Is it over? Then we can go back, said Liu Ningxuang, sipping her wine, her pretty face flushed with a rosy hue as she smiled and spoke. I wonder how little Minju is doing. Has she been cultivating properly? Lu Yi smiled slightly. Before leaving, I left behind plenty of resources for junior sister. She should have made quite a bit of progress in her cultivation base by now. Liu Ningxuang smiled softly. That's good to hear. Jian Ruyu hugged Lu Yi's arm, grinning. I'm not going back to the Divine Sword sect just yet. I haven't been home for many years. I'm going to Qingzhou. Liu Ningxuang furrowed her brows. Ruyu, have you and junior brother become a bit too intimate these days? Jian Ruyu stiffened, laughing awkwardly. What are you talking about? Isn't it normal for a junior sister and junior brother to be close? You and that perverted junior brother are also close, aren't you? Yunzai wore a full-face smile without speaking, simply sipping her drink quietly. Lu Yi's face was covered in sweat. Of course, they had become intimate after all. They had already deeply exchanged thoughts. Liu Ningxuang raised an eyebrow, feeling that something was off but unable to pinpoint it. Is that so? Yes, yes, Jian Ruyu nodded repeatedly. Liu Ningxuang decided not to dwell on it, smiling softly. In that case, let's set off tomorrow. Lu Yi nodded. We'll go find our sect members and elders first, and then head back together. No problem. Early the next morning, Lu Yi and his 3 companions left Moon Spirit City discreetly. Even now, no one knew that the renowned Lu Yi had been staying in Moon Spirit City. Feiyun Stream was far from Moon Spirit City, but with the speed of Lu Yi and his companions, it took only a few days to arrive at the underground cavern and meet Jiang Fan and the others. Upon seeing Lu Yi, Jiang Fan's face burst into a smile. Junior brother Lu, we've been waiting for you here all this time. You are a bit late. Tai Man laughed. I knew it. With junior brother Lu's character, he would definitely come to look for us to return to Qingzhou together. Qi Ling nodded continuously upon seeing Liu Ningxuang. Very good, very good. Miss Liu has also become so powerful now. Truly formidable future generations. The elders of White Cloud sect were very pleased, while Nangong Moyu and others had already stopped comparing themselves to Liu Ningxuang, becoming numb to it. The cultivators from Wenjian Manor and 10,000 Flowers sect were overjoyed to see Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai as well. Soon after, everyone set off together for the journey back to Qingzhou. Chapter 447, 195, Creating the Immortal Domain. Chapter 447, Chapter 195, Creating the Immortal Domain. As the Sea Clan cultivators retreated, the journey was very calm, free of any danger. Along the way, Lu Yi saw many cultivators from other great states moving toward the areas once occupied by the Sea Clan battlefield. These cultivators were all disciples from sects that had previously fled. Now, with the Sea Clan's withdrawal and the recovery of lost lands, these disciples also returned to rebuild their sects. Lu Yi's thoughts turned to the foreign sects within Qingzhou, and his brow slightly rose in curiosity. How were those sects experts faring? 2 months later, Lu Yi and his companions finally returned to Qingzhou. Afterward, Jian Ruyu and Yun Zai bid farewell to Lu Yi, as they needed to lead the cultivators of Wenjian Manor and 10,000 Flowers sect back home first. Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang also led the disciples of White Cloud sect back to their sect. Seeing the familiar sect gates, not only Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang, but all the cultivators also revealed relieved smiles. Qi Ling, with a complex expression, sighed. Old man thought he'd never see this place again in this lifetime. Many emotional cultivators couldn't help but shed tears at this moment. After all, when they had left, very few knew if they would truly survive. Outside the gate, Master Wu Qingfeng and others were already waiting. On seeing Lu Yi and the others, everyone was overcome with excitement and rushed up to meet them. Everyone welcome home, Wu Qingfeng said with a smile. Behind him, a large number of White Cloud sect disciples were also present, cheering as they saw Lu Yi and the others. The entire disciple body and the high-ranking elders of White Cloud sect had come out to welcome them. A streak of purple thunder light coursed across the sky, arriving swiftly before Lu Yi and hugged him. Senior brother, you're finally back. It was Dongong Mingyue. Lu Yi nodded with a beaming smile, fondly touching Dongong Mingyue's hair. How about you? Have you been cultivating properly lately? Dongong Mingyue wrinkled her little nose and said, Of course I've been cultivating hard. I just had a breakthrough to the cave void realm a few days ago. Lu Yi had naturally sensed it, and he nodded with satisfaction, smiling broadly. Donggong Mingyue, proud, glanced at Liu Ningxuang beside her and laughed. HMMPH. I'm now a cave void cultivator too. Stinky senior sister, just wait, I'll suppress you in a few days. Liu Ningxuang glanced at Donggong Mingyue, her face serene and cold, and said, I'm already at the peak of cave void. Donggong Mingyue. She was dumbfounded, frozen in shock. Year. Lu Yi heard a familiar voice, turned his head, and saw old Lu and Wang Siki flying over. Beside them were Du Gufang and Qi Feiyu, two outer sect elders. Lu Yi laughed and said, Old Lu, Mom, I'm back. That's good, Lu Gaiyang nodded slightly, saying no more than necessary. Next to him, Wang Siki complained, Year, you really? A cave void cultivator going to battle with a great Mahayana, it's like you're tired of living. Learning that Lu Yi had actually fought with a great Mahayana cultivator in East Bright City, Lu Gaiyang and Wang Siki were more worried than proud. Lu Yi understood Wang Siki's concerns and chuckled awkwardly, but I'm fine, right? And it's just a mere Mahayana, not much to me. Everyone. Wang Siki rolled her eyes. You're powerful, we can't really argue with you now. How could that be? You're my mom, Lu Yi replied with a chuckle. Standing beside him, Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue were also quick to greet them. Uncle Lu, Auntie Siki, said Liu Ningxuang, her usually cold voice carrying a hint of warmth, while Donggong Mingyue was as sweet as honey. As Lu Yi's senior sister and junior sister, both had already met Lu Gaiyang and Wang Siki. Still, they remained respectful. Immediately, Wang Siki's smile broadened, and she began chatting about family matters with the two. Lu Gaiyang looked at the beaming Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue with a peculiar expression. As someone who had been there before, he understood the intentions behind their smiles, and he chose not to comment further. He looked at Lu Yi and said, Let's return home for tonight. It's been more than a decade since you left. Your mother has been nagging me daily to the point where I'm almost calloused. Lu Gaiyang, what did you say? Wang Siki, always strong-willed, glared at Lu Gaiyang. Lu Gaiyang said solemnly, Oh, I must have dreamt it. Wang Siki, still beaming, took Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue by the hand and said, Ningxuang, Mingyue, why don't you come to our house for dinner tonight? Liu Ningxuang smiled faintly and nodded, Donggong Mingyue, hugging Wang Siki's arm, said, Then later I want to eat Auntie Siki's braised pork. Wang Siki glanced at Lu Yi, Isn't this boy a spirit chef? Doesn't he make it tastier than me? Mingyue likes Auntie Siki's cooking better, Donggong Mingyue replied cheerfully. Wang Siki's smile was radiant, while Liu Ningxuang laughed in disbelief, telepathically telling Donggong Mingyue, Little flatterer. Donggong Mingyue's smile instantly became rigid. Because of Lu Yi's connection, old Lu and Mom held a special status in White Cloud sect, with even Master Wu Qingfeng and others treating them as peers. Master Wu Qingfeng, grinning, said, Brother Lu, add another set of chopsticks later. I'd like to join in on the fun. Elder Ming, who had been standing to the side, also said with a smile, Since that's the case, this old fellow would like a cup of wine too. One after the other, the higher-ups of White Cloud sect laughed as they spoke. Lu Gaiyang naturally agreed with a smile. Laughing and talking, the group made their way back to the outer sect family home, and people like Master Wu Qingfeng, Elder Ming, Elder Xuan, Elder Liu Zhenyang, Elder Qi Ling, and others joined in as well. Chapter 448, 195, Crafting the Immortal Domain 2. Chapter 448, Chapter 195, Crafting the Immortal Domain /2. Even Jiang Fan, Nangong Moyu, and a few friends who were close to Lu Yi had the nerve to sit down at Lu Yi's home. Year, there are so many people today, you should cook, Wang Siki said with her hands on her hips, commanding without any politeness. In the entire Tiananmen, there weren't many who dared to boss Lu Yi around anymore, and probably the only one with a cultivation base in the nascent soul realm who would was her. With a full head of black lines, Lu Yi glanced at the expectant crowd and was speechless. What are all of you doing crowding around? He had come home looking forward to a meal cooked by his mother, and now he had to cook himself. Brother Lu, we haven't had your spirit food in so long, do be kind, said Nangong Moyu with a grin. The others also egged on. Lu Yi, at a loss for words, took out a large chunk of unification black water flood dragon meat and began to grill it. This was the easiest thing to do. With the addition of spiritual wine from before, at this meal, hardly any of the cultivators could get more than a few bites. Only the cave void realm cultivators like Elder Ming, Elder Liu Zhenyu, and the newly advanced Elder Wu Qingfeng managed to eat more. Most of it was eaten by Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang, and Dongong Mingyue. After dinner, Lu Yi chased everyone away, getting rid of all these people. He spent the night at home, and only then did Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang, and Dongong Mingyue return to Ling Luo Peak. Facing Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang said, "Junior brother, let's go see Master first." Lu Yi nodded. He still remembered a certain sleepyhead who had complained that he didn't visit her after he was back. Although Dongong Mingyue didn't need to visit the Ling Luo Peak Master, having not seen him in a long while, she missed Lu Yi terribly and wished she could cling to him without leaving his side. What's more, she kept baring her teeth and making faces at Liu Ningxuang. Liu Ningxuang gave her a faint glance, and strands of cold air circulated around her body, which finally made Dongong Mingyue quiet down. The three arrived in front of the bamboo house atop Ling Luo Peak, and Lu Yi called out, "Master, your disciple has returned." In just a moment, the door to the bamboo house opened, and the Ling Luo Peak Master, dressed in a loose white robe, with her snow-white arms and thighs exposed to the air, her delicate collarbones visible to Lu Yi, lazily lay on a lounger. Unlike usual, her face seemed to lack sleepiness and was instead furrowed in worry. Lu Yi was taken aback. This master of his, who did nothing but eat and sleep every day, virtually no different from a pig, was actually capable of such emotions as distress. Lu Yi was shocked beyond belief. Not just Lu Yi, Liu Ningxuang and Dongong Mingyue by his side also noticed this, exchanging looks of astonishment. After a moment of thought, Lu Yi asked, "Master, what's troubling you?" The Ling Luo Peak Master glanced at Lu Yi, propping her cheek with one hand, and sighed, "You wouldn't understand even if I told you." Lu Yi retorted speechlessly, "If you don't tell me, I'll understand even less." The Ling Luo Peak Master flicked a finger toward Lu Yi. Instantly, a thud sounded on his forehead, causing such pain that Lu Yi clutched his head, crouching with a grimace. The Ling Luo Peak Master nodded with satisfaction. It's still the same old feeling." Immediately infuriated, Lu Yi glared at his own master. Damn it, even now, Lu Yi couldn't sense how strong this person was. He stood no chance. "This grudge, I'll remember it, and once I ascend, I'll definitely press Master to the ground and flick her forehead." Lu Yi seethed with anger in his heart. The Ling Luo Peak Master finally spoke. "By the way, you stinker, in some time, your master will have to take a trip far from home and will leave Ling Luo Peak for a while." "What?" Lu Yi and the others exclaimed in shock. Lu Yi looked incredulously at the Ling Luo Peak Master. "Master, you're actually going to leave Ling Luo Peak? No, you're actually going to leave the top of Ling Luo Peak. Are you facing some life-threatening danger and planning to flee?" This person who wouldn't even move a step out of the bamboo house was going to travel far away. Lu Yi couldn't believe it. Seeing the shocked expressions of the three, the Ling Luo Peak Master frowned, shooting a disgruntled look at Lu Yi, flicking his forehead repeatedly. "What do you take your master for? Do you think your master is a freeloader who only eats and sleeps? Isn't she?" Lu Yi thought silently, but the pain on his forehead made him quickly say, "Master, your disciple meant no offense, it just came as a surprise." The Ling Luo Peak Master flicked Lu Yi's forehead a few more times before snorting with satisfaction and retracting her hand. Lu Yi felt like his forehead was starting to swell. He winced, then asked out of curiosity, "Master, why are you suddenly going on a long journey?" The Ling Luo Peak Master sighed sorrowfully. "You wouldn't understand, it's none of your concern." Lu Yi helplessly asked, "Then where are you going, Master, and when do you plan to return?" Lu Yi was certain that his master was at an immortal level existence and was a stabilizing pillar in the White Cloud sect. Now that the pillar was leaving, he honestly felt somewhat uneasy. Even though his strength was now tremendous, he still didn't have much confidence. The Ling Luo Peak Master replied, "Going back home for a bit. If it's short, a year, if long, 100 years." Lu Yi and the others were startled. Dongong Mingyue even asked, "Master, you're leaving for that long?" "Not too long," the Ling Luo Peak Master spoke, then looked toward Lu Yi. "You brat, you're already a cave void cultivator now and your strength is formidable. During the time I'm not here, you'll be in charge of the White Cloud sect. Of course, defend it if you can, but if you can't, your life is more important." Chapter 449, 195, Crafting the Immortal Domain 3. Chapter 449. Chapter 195, Crafting the Immortal Domain /3. Upon hearing this, Luya's expression immediately became serious, and he nodded. I understand. The Ling Luo Peak Master nodded slightly and waved her hand. All right, you may go back now and focus on your cultivation. In a few days, the whole of Tiananmen might become unsettled. This statement caused Lu Yi and the other two to be taken aback, with Lu Yi asking, why will it become unsettled? That's not for you to worry about now. Hurry up and cultivate and ascend as soon as possible. The Ling Luo Peak Master waved her hand, moving the three of them out of the bamboo house. Standing outside the bamboo house and looking at the closed door, the three exchanged glances with each other. So, what exactly is the unsettled situation Master referred to? Donggong Mingyue scratched her head, somewhat exasperated. Master never finishes her sentences. It's really frustrating. Liu Ningxuang, with a cool expression on her pretty face, said, just focus on cultivating well. With sufficient strength, no matter what danger you face, you will be able to get through it safely. Lu Yi nodded. Senior sister is right. Let's go back to cultivate. Donggong Mingyue also nodded, and then, noticing the nearby spirit pond, she said, by the way, you've been running around outside for so many years. Why not take a bath first? Her words caused Lu Yi and Liu Ningxuang to pause, and after exchanging a look, both were quite tempted. Let's take a bath first then, to wash away the fatigue, before we go back to cultivating, suggested Liu Ningxuang as she walked towards the spirit pond. The three of them took a pleasant bath, and then descended from Ling Luo Peak, each returning to their respective cave mansions. Lu Yi did not return to his cave mansion, but first checked on the primordial Yang tree, Yuan Yin tree, and the enlightenment Tea tree. These precious treasures, although not well taken care of by Lu Yi in recent years, were still growing well. Of course, his master might have tended to them on his behalf. The Rashomon ancient tree was also growing well. The spiritual energy in Lu Yi's cave mansion was so dense that the entire place was shrouded in mist formed by condensed spiritual energy, which even spread from inside the cave mansion to the outside, thus enhancing the spiritual energy throughout Ling Luo Peak significantly. Lu Yi was somewhat astonished, truly befitting of an immortal tree. Afterwards, Lu Yi took out 2 seeds. One was from the Sword Origin tree, and the other was from the Heavenly Star tree. The former was awarded to him for the task of winning over senior sister Jian Ruyu's affections, and the latter for discovering Mist Island. Both were precious treasures on the level of the Rashomon ancient tree. Unlike the Rashomon ancient tree, the Sword Origin tree and Heavenly Star tree would grow exceedingly large. Lu Yi planted both seeds outside his cave mansion and watered them with the 10,000-year-old spirit marrow, with the power of nature accelerating their growth until the seeds germinated. After the Sword Origin tree germinated, strands of profoundly mysterious sword intent law circulated on it, and a fearsome sword intent enveloped the entire Ling Luo Peak, causing its cultivators to be extremely alarmed and to look towards the peak in amazement, wondering what had happened. However, since there was no sound of battle, no one approached, for the Ling Luo Peak Master disliked others venturing to the higher areas of Ling Luo Peak. Yet some sword cultivators of Ling Luo Peak, feeling the intense sword intent, were profoundly shocked and, not wanting to miss such an opportunity, began closed-door meditation to comprehend it. After the Heavenly Star tree germinated, a strand of starlight beamed down from the outer space star river onto the budding tree. The rich starlight gradually enveloped the entire Ling Luo Peak, startling the disciples of the entire White Cloud sect and leaving them even more confounded. When Lu Yi induced the germination of both tree seeds, the resulting anomalies even brought the Ling Luo Peak Master and recently returned Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue flying over. The Ling Luo Peak Master, looking at the sprouts on the ground, had a very interesting expression on her face. Heavenly Star Tree, Sword Origin Tree. These two are both immortal trees. Where on earth did you get such treasures from? The Ling Luo Peak Master, bewildered, looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi smiled sheepishly. Some time ago, I obtained them through a serendipitous opportunity. Your luck is just too good, isn't it? The Ling Luo Peak Master complained. If you can get some more immortal trees, who knows, maybe you could even turn the White Cloud sect into an immortal domain. Lu Yi was startled and asked with astonishment, the White Cloud sect can become an immortal domain. Not only Lu Yi, but Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue were also surprised. The Ling Luo Peak Master casually remarked, why not? After all, an immortal domain is but a world teeming with spiritual energy. Immortal trees can produce spiritual energy, So if you could find a few more after a couple of 100 million years, once these immortal trees have fully matured, it would not be impossible to transform the White Cloud sect into an immortal domain. Listening, Luya's eyes grew brighter. Can it actually be done like this? Seeing Luya eager to try, the Ling Luo Peak Master wore a strange expression. Hey, 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 you rascal, you aren't seriously thinking about turning the White Cloud sect into an immortal domain, are you? You may be lucky, but 3 immortal trees are not enough. Where on Tiananmen can you find that many immortal trees for cultivation? Luya chuckled. That's not necessarily true, right? I've always been quite lucky. What if I really find them? The Ling Luo Peak Master rolled their eyes speechlessly. You're daydreaming, kid. Do you really think those immortal tree seeds can just appear out of nowhere? No matter how good your luck is, it's impossible. If you were truly able to turn the White Cloud sect into an immortal domain, considering the entire cosmos, who knows how many immortal domains there would be? Luya said exasperatedly, Master, this is your disciple's dream. How can you speak like that? I'm trying to make you face reality. Dreams and fantasies are 2 different things. The Ling Luo Peak Master stated, if you truly manage it, I'll even call you Daddy. Luya. He wasn't sure whether to agree at the moment. It didn't seem quite right. Not only the Ling Luo Peak Master, but Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue beside him also had strange expressions upon hearing these words. The Ling Luo Peak Master then realized they might have misspoken. Anyway, you better give up such unrealistic fantasies as soon as possible. Luya nodded reluctantly. I understand. What kind of expression would his master have if the White Cloud sect were truly transformed into an immortal domain? Luya was somewhat looking forward to it. The Ling Luo Peak Master left, and Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue each squatted in front of a tree sapling. Donggong Mingyue, looking at the heavenly star tree, was overjoyed. This immortal tree can really release spiritual energy. Once they grow, the spiritual energy in our White Cloud sect might be even denser than those in the immortal sect Holy Lands, right? Luya smiled and said, Of course, in the future we are going to become immortals. Naturally, we have to turn the White Cloud sect into an immortal sect Holy Land. Hearing this, both Liu Ningxuang and Donggong Mingyue grew a bit wistful. After that, the 2 of them also left, and Luya returned to his own cave mansion to start tallying the loot from his last exploration of Mist Island. As an island with immortals' presence, and having encountered that black giant snake and black figure, the task rewards exceeded Luya's expectations. Chapter 450-196, Immortal Artifact, Immortal Scripture, Rashomon Clan Descends. Chapter 450, Chapter 196, Immortal Artifact, Immortal Scripture, Rashomon Clan Descends. Task: Explore Mist Island over the Endless Sea in the Eastern Domain. Rewards are determined by the extent of exploration. Rewards: Low-grade Immortal Device Green Ring, Immortal Scripture, Yimuhua Sheng Scripture. Would you like to claim the rewards? Yes, no. Although the rewards for the task aren't numerous, just 2 items, each one is extremely precious, all of an immortal level. The green ring houses endless space within, which can be used to store various items without limit. Of course, it can only hold inanimate objects and cannot contain living things. In addition, using spiritual energy can activate the green ring, releasing the green wheel treasure light, which is quite effective both for defense and attack. Though it definitely consumes a significant amount of energy, it can still be used as a trump card in dangerous situations. The Yimuhua Sheng Scripture is a powerful immortal scripture, on par with the Immortal Sword Scripture and the 9 Heaven Sword Immortal Treasure Book, and is the 3rd scripture Luya has mastered. This scripture cultivates the power of nature, which is convenient for comprehending the natural law and has the power of transformation. While it may lack in offensive power, it possesses remarkable capabilities in healing and life-saving. Once the power of transformation from the Yimuhua Sheng Scripture is cultivated, even if the physical body is destroyed, it can be restored with the help of the power of nature from the surroundings, which is extremely terrifying. What excited Luya the most was that this scripture contains a secret technique that utilizes the power of nature to foster heavenly materials and earthly treasures, many times more effective than the ordinary forced fostering using the power of nature. This is the secret technique Luya needs the most right now, as he currently has 3 immortal trees that need a considerable amount of time to fully grow. Even with fostering using the power of nature, it still requires a substantial amount of time. However, Using this secret technique can reduce the time by dozens or even hundreds of folds. Lu Yi put on the green ring, which looked like a ring carved from jade. Once worn, it appeared simple and ordinary, not revealing itself to be an immortal device. Lu Yi often issued tasks, completed them, and reaped various heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and even elixirs, for which even an interspatial ring was insufficient. Moreover, he had acquired several great powers interspatial rings in the Sea Clan battlefield. Although most of the items inside were of no use to Lu Yi, the useful ones still required several interspatial rings. All these interspatial rings were carried by Lu Yi at all times, but now, one green ring was enough. Afterwards, Lu Yi also cultivated the Yimu Sheng scripture. Lu Yi's foundation was consolidated by the power of Tao, and even the immortal sword seed cultivated from the immortal sword scripture could not enter the nascent soul, only hover outside. While comprehending the Nine Heavens Sword Immortal Treasure Book, Lu Yi realized he could also cultivate this immortal scripture. Although there was no change in his cultivation base, the focus of different immortal scriptures was diverse. After cultivating, Lu Yi could gather the strengths of these scriptures to cover any shortcomings. Now, with the Yimu Sheng scripture cultivated, Lu Yi could transform the power of Tao into the power of transformation, possessing unimaginable healing and life-saving abilities, incomparable even to the pure natural law. Most importantly, the fostering secret technique also required the use of the Yimu transformation power to operate. After memorizing the Yimu Sheng scripture, Lu Yi planned to pass this scripture to Xianxia, which would grant her an immortal scripture and strengthen her abilities. Lu Yi felt a bit moved inside, thinking if Xianxia could help him foster the immortal trees, that would ease his burden significantly. Lately, Lu Yi also recalled the ancient array patterns he had comprehended from the East Forest ruins. If the two sects could be connected with a spatial formation, it might be feasible. In the future, it would make it much easier for Xianxia to visit the White Cloud sect. Lu Yi kept this idea in mind, planning to discuss it later with the upper levels of White Cloud sect and 10,000 Flowers sect. If feasible, the offensive and defensive alliance between 10,000 Flowers sect and White Cloud sect would become much stronger, and their relationship much closer. By then, the immortals of 10,000 Flowers sect would be able to visit White Cloud sect anytime, which would be great for the brothers of the White Cloud sect. By then, Bai Yulong would probably be ecstatic. Thinking of this, Lu Yi's expression turned somewhat odd. If this plan succeeds, later it would also be possible to establish teleportation arrays for Wenjian Manor and Cold Winter Valley, creating a transportation network. The next morning, Lu Yi went to White Cloud Peak to find Master Wu Qingfeng, as he wanted to inquire about the Profound Sun sect, the Qin family, and Forget River Valley. After all, with mutual enmities and the Sea Clan War concluded, the great Mahayana cultivators of those three sects had returned, and Lu Yi did not want anyone targeting them from the shadows. They needed to be dealt with. Upon hearing Lu Yi's inquiry, Master Wu Qingfeng's expression became very odd. "You mean the Profound Sun sect? They left Qingzhou over 10 years ago." Lu Yi was startled, slightly confused. "They left Qingzhou over 10 years ago. Why?" "Why, if not because of you?" Master Wu Qingfeng said exasperatedly. "Ever since word got out about the battle at East Bright City in the Sea Clan battlefield, where you and Senior Lin Yunfeng from the Tei Holy Land trapped and killed several great Mahayana powers from the Sea Clan, they fled. They're probably too terrified of your strength." Lu Yi. Lu Yi was somewhat speechless. He had originally planned to annihilate those three forces, and there went another wave of task rewards. Who knew they would flee so quickly? Chapter 451, 196, Immortal Artifact, Immortal Scripture, Rashomon Clan Descends 2. Chapter 451, Chapter 196, Immortal Artifact, Immortal Scripture, Rashomon Clan Descends /2. Lu Yi felt discontent, asking, "Do you know where they went?" Wu Qingfeng looked at Lu Yi with an odd expression. "I don't know. They left in a hurry, and at that time, not many people were aware of this matter. It was only discovered later that they had left. You're not still thinking of going after them to fight, are you?" Lu Yi let out a dry laugh. "No, that's not it. If they can't be found, then let it be." For Lu Yi, he would only grow stronger as time passed. Now that the cultivators from those three sects had already run away and were no longer his match, he couldn't be bothered to waste time looking for them. He could spend that time better by cultivating properly. "By the way, sect leader, I have a matter that I'd like to discuss with you." Luya talked to Wu Qingfeng about setting up the transmission array between the White Cloud sect and the 10,000 Flowers sect. Wu Qingfeng was very interested after hearing about it and expressed his willingness to discuss it with the 10,000 Flowers sect. Now that the White Cloud sect was thriving, Master Wu Qingfeng had no pressing matters, so he left the sect that very day to find Granny Hua from the 10,000 Flowers sect. After leaving White Cloud Peak, Luya went back to his cave mansion to cultivate. Since his senior sister had not yet engaged in dual cultivation, Luya would occasionally sneak into Dongong Mingyue's cave mansion to dual cultivate with her. When Dongong Mingyue was exhausted, Luya cultivated on his own. He pondered over various laws, Taoist skills, immortal scriptures, and numerous cultivation arts. News about the Sea Clan battlefield also came back from time to time. The sects that were once forced by the Sea Clan to leave their old territories returned to their original locations, but due to the impact of the Great War, many powerful sects had weakened after their strongest members died in battle, being annexed by others. There were also originally weaker sects whose members gained great opportunities on the Sea Clan battlefield and soared to the sky, starting to become one of the powerhouses in that area. There were even loose cultivators who established their own sects and divided the spoils among themselves. In summary, that original Sea Clan battlefield region was still in chaos, only now it was not a fight against Sea Clan cultivators, but rather Eastern region practitioners wanting to divide their spoils. This turmoil would probably take some time to end. Meanwhile, in the East Sea domain, the battle between immortals also had an enormous impact. Huge areas of the East Sea domain were destroyed. Although the sea water had already refilled the area, some islands had vanished forever, and new islands had formed, with nearly 1,000,000 kilometers of land surface altered. The Sea Clan cultivators in that region suffered the most. Many powerful figures died an undeserved death during the battle between immortals, and the Black Water Flood Dragon, as the overlord power of that region, also suffered heavy losses. However, since their base was protected by an immortal artifact, the foundation itself was untouched. They merely had to act more discreetly. Messages from the Sea Clan relayed that 3 void immortals of the Xuanwang Dragon Python clan had mysteriously vanished without a trace, and even their clan had no idea where they went. Because those 3 void immortals disappeared, the Xuanwang Dragon Python clan also became more discreet, ceasing their conquests. The Sea Clan, too, fell into a state of calm. The only problem was the previously erratic Mist Island, which no longer moved unpredictably after the Great War. It had turned into an abyss of black flames, and no one knew where it led. Any beings that approached were affected by Jiyu power and would go mad. Now, Mist Island had become a forbidden area. 25 years later, within a mountain range in Qingzhou, a space rift suddenly appeared. On the other side of the rift, dark bloody light flowed with a thick stench of blood. 2 tall figures stepped out. These 2 figures had blood-red skin and were fierce-looking with horns on their heads. Their bodies surged with blood and qi, carrying fearsome power, causing all life in the mountain range to fall into a deathly silence, not daring to disturb them. They were cultivators of the Rashomon clan, and they were all-powerful beings of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. The 2 Rashomon clan cultivators looked around and frowned. The concentration of spiritual energy here is too low. It's nowhere close to our Rashomon star, one of them said. Naturally, this planet is considered decent among the mortal stars, but it's far from a true immortal star, the other replied. Let's not waste time. Let's go find the human cultivator that the old ancestor mentioned. To think he dares to kill our Rashomon clan's genius, to seize our Rashomon clan's immortal tree, he cannot escape a multitude of deaths, one Rashomon clan cultivator said coldly. The other Rashomon clan cultivator nodded. After the death of the blood spirit, our old ancestor traversed the void, leaving behind a mark. By following the mark, we should be able to find him. Their figures transformed, shifting into the appearance of ordinary humans, turning into streaks of light and vanishing from sight. Inside the cultivation room of Lu Yi's cave mansion, within the White Cloud sect, Lu Yi sat cross-legged, with sword and tent revolving around him, with towering green woods, encompassing seas of flowers and endless oceans of frost. Various vast anomalies surrounded him, as if they were worlds unto themselves, and Lu Yi, seated cross-legged, appeared as the master of these worlds. Moments later, Lu Yi slowly opened his eyes, and the surrounding anomalies dissipated. He stood up and stretched, exclaiming, The immortal scriptures truly deserve their reputation. The Nine Heavens Sword Immortal Treasure Book and the Yimuhua Sheng scripture are also very profound. The cultivation effects are good indeed. He then sighed with a hint of helplessness. Unfortunately, compared with dual cultivation, cultivating on my own is still a bit slow. As Lu Yi walked out of his cave mansion, he saw Yunzai approaching. Seeing Lu Yi, her eyes brightened and she smiled. Lu Yi, have you finished cultivating? I just used the fostering secret technique to tend to the saplings, and they are growing well. If this continues, it's likely that in a few more decades, the concentration of spiritual energy throughout the entire White Cloud sect will once again increase significantly. Chapter 452, 196, Immortal Artifact, Immortal Scripture, Rashomon Clan Descends 3. Chapter 452, Chapter 196, Immortal Artifact, Immortal Scripture, Rashomon Clan Descends /3. Lu Yi's eyes lit up, and he smiled as he patted Yunzai on the head, saying, "Thank you, Yunzai." "Why should we say thank you between us?" Yunzai laughed. Lu Yi nodded. After initially discussing the teleportation network with Master Wu Qingfeng, Wu Qingfeng had immediately agreed upon consulting Granny Hua. Thereafter, Lu Yi set up transmission arrays within the territories of both sects, allowing the cultivators of each sect to visit each other conveniently. Seeing the favorable outcome, Master Wu Qingfeng and Granny Hua also allowed Wenjian Manor and Cold Winter Valley to join in. Just like that, the four sects formed a small teleportation network. Travel became much easier, and currently, the White Cloud sect was bustling daily with disciples from the 10,000 Flowers sect, Cold Winter Valley, and Wenjian Manor visiting its workshops. Yunzai and Jian Ruyu also frequently visited the White Cloud sect to discuss cultivation with the three from the White Cloud sect. Of course, dual cultivation sessions were also integral, and Lu Yi had significantly enhanced his cultivation base through dual training and cultivation over the years. He had reached the 13th level of Cave Void, just a step away from breaking through to the unification realm. Lu Yi sat down with Yunzai in his arms, smiling as he asked, "How is your cultivation of the Yimuhua Sheng scripture going? If there's anything unclear, let me explain it to you." "Yes," Yunzai nodded, voicing some points she found perplexing, which Lu Yi explained one by one. After discussing for several hours, Yunzai, her ethereal eyes bright with delight, looked at Lu Yi and exclaimed, "Lu Yi, you are truly impressive. Your understanding of the Yimuhua Sheng scripture is much deeper than mine. This immortal scripture is profoundly elusive, and even though I possess an immortal body, I find some parts rather challenging." Lu Yi responded with a grin, "As for comprehension, since you've been drinking enlightenment tea, you will attain it soon." He and Yunzai were different after all. He had his master. Each time his master expounded on the Tao, it triggered a sudden enlightenment in him, once a month, and Lu Yi had also shifted this practice towards his study of the Yimuhua Sheng scripture, naturally far exceeding Yunzai in enlightenment. Unfortunately, his master had left the White Cloud sect 5 years ago and had not returned since, and it was uncertain when she would be back. Yunzai smiled and nodded. Looking at Yunzai's ethereal and strikingly beautiful face, a thought crossed Lu Yi's mind. He cleared his throat and said, "Since you're free now, how about we engage in dual cultivation?" Yunzai stiffened, looking helplessly at Lu Yi with a deep sense of grievance. "Last time, you had me, Sister Ruyu and Sister Minju accompany you for so many days of dual training, and it hasn't been long since then. You already want to cultivate again." Lu Yi, filled with pride, laughed. "If possible, I would wish to do it every day." "Yunzai." She punched Lu Yi on the shoulder and said, "I alone am not enough. We need to call Sister Ruyu and Sister Minju over as well. By the way, when will you bring Sister Ningxuang into this too?" Lu Yi helplessly replied, "I would like to, but Senior Sister Ruyu always says she isn't mentally prepared yet, and hasn't she asked us not to talk about it?" Hearing this, and recalling the sacrifices Jian Ruyu made each time they practiced dual cultivation to keep Lu Yi from mentioning it to Liu Ningxuang, Yunzai's cheeks turned slightly red. Yunzai laughed. Sister Ruyu is probably afraid that if Sister Ningxuang found out about it, she would hold her accountable since she's been sneaking around for so long. Lu Yi's lips twitched slightly, almost able to imagine how furious Liu Ningxuang would be if she discovered this. It was likely that not only Jian Ruyu, but all three of them would not be spared. Lu Yi shook his head. "You can't wrap fire with paper. I always feel like Senior Sister might have sensed something unusual recently." I always feel scared by the way Sister Ningxuang has been looking at me recently. Sister Minju has been frequently sealed by her too. Lu Yi grinned. No wonder these days, senior sister seems a bit hesitant to come over, always requiring me to find her. Yunzai nodded. It's better to speak sooner. Your physical body has become stronger and stronger, and the three of us together are finding it harder and harder to resist. Lu Yi, a bit smug, said, Of course, I'm quite impressive. Just then Lu Yi suddenly furrowed his brow, his expression turning grave. Yunzai, sitting atop Lu Yi, sensed his anomaly immediately. She glanced at Lu Yi, noticing his serious demeanor, and asked with some confusion, What's wrong, Lu Yi? Lu Yi, his expression sharp, said, It seems someone wants to make a move against me. Having brought his small deduction skill to perfection, Lu Yi instinctively reacted to the sense of heavenly mechanism. Growing stronger with increasing cultivation, his sensitivity to fate and aura had also intensified. He sensed a cultivator harnessing some kind of peculiar power, attempting to detect him through aura. The issue was, this power was so formidable that even Lu Yi had difficulty completely severing it, and it also felt familiar. Shocked and puzzled, Lu Yi recalled the intense memory of that power. When he had killed the blood spirit sect ancestor, he had felt that terrifying gaze, that scrutiny. It was that overwhelmingly strong force. Lu Yi was alarmed. Had the Immortal who had left that mark from before, after such a long time, he was still able to sense him through fate. Disturbed yet deeply somber, Lu Yi thought, it's probably a strong figure from the Rashomon clan. However, according to his master, the Rashomon clan and this star domain were not under the /same force. Immortal figures from the Rashomon clan would probably not dare to come here. Then, what level was the visitor? A great Mahayana cultivator or a tribulation-crossing practitioner? Lu Yi pondered. Hearing Lu Yi's words, Yunzai's expression shifted slightly, then a hint of coldness appeared on her face. Who wants to make a move against you? It could be the Rashomon clan. Lu Yi had discussed the matters regarding the Rashomon clan with Yunzai, and hearing this, her expression changed subtly. Is it an immortal coming? No, I don't think so, Lu Yi shook his head. His eyes flickered momentarily, then he smiled slightly. Let me deduce as well. Since his opponent could deduce him through aura, he naturally could deduce back. Chapter 453, 197 Chapter Jiu Immortal Corpse, Immortal Oracle. Lu Yi employed the small deduction skill, tracing back the spiritual signature of the Immortal, and soon, a grave expression surfaced on his face. Tribulation Crossing Practitioners. 2 Tribulation Crossing Practitioners are already in Qingzhou, not far from the White Cloud sect. Upon hearing this, Yunzai's face underwent a slight change. What should we do? Lu Yi smiled. As long as they're not immortals, we can cope with them. Since they've deduced my location, I might as well go and confront them directly. After all, a battle between Tribulation Crossing practitioners was terrifyingly destructive. If they fought within the White Cloud sect's territory, the entire sect would likely be reduced to ruins. Lu Yi couldn't let that happen. Lu Yi told Yunzai to stay within the sect. After all, facing Tribulation Crossing practitioners was too daunting a task given Yunzai's current strength. Yunzai didn't say much, simply nodding, Be careful. Lu Yi nodded, transformed into a streak of light, and disappeared within the cave mansion. In a region far from the White Cloud sect, within the territory that once belonged to the Blood Spirit sect, 2 Rashomon clan cultivators were lingering in a desolate ravine. One of the Rashomon clan cultivators was sitting cross-legged, with strands of blood-colored light circulating around him, while the other stood by his side. Soon, the cross-legged Rashomon clan cultivator abruptly opened his eyes, shock filling his gaze. What happened, Bloodwood? The other Rashomon clan cultivator noticed the anomaly immediately and asked. Bloodwood frowned, his face still carrying a hint of disbelief. The killer seems to have noticed our presence. Hearing this, the other Rashomon clan cultivator's face changed drastically, incredulous. How is that possible? At such a vast distance, how could he possibly sense us? The killer seems to be skilled in the divination skill, detecting that I used the ancestor's mark to deduce his location, said Bloodwood. Upon hearing this, the other Rashomon clan cultivator actually relaxed and said, I thought his cultivation base had reached some unimaginable level, that even from such a distant place, he would be able to sense us. What's his cultivation base like? It's not strong, just at the cave void realm, said Bloodwood with a shake of his head. Hearing this, the other Rashomon clan cultivator sneered. Just a mere cave void cultivator, crushing him would be like turning over one's hand. Bloodwood did not refute. As both of them were tribulation crossing practitioners, they had the confidence to make such remarks. Let's move quickly, since he's noticed us he might choose to flee, Bloodwood said. He can't run. The ancestor's mark is always there. Even if he runs to the ends of the earth, we can find him and then crush him like squashing a bug. That's true, but the sooner we finish this matter, the sooner we can return. The spiritual energy here is too weak. My whole body feels uncomfortable just staying here. That's also true, let's go. The two Rashomon clan cultivators turned into streaks of light and flew towards the direction of the White Cloud sect. Soon the two Rashomon clan cultivators arrived at a barren mountainous area. Just then, a light approached swiftly from the distance, flying towards them. A cold light flickered in the eyes of the two Rashomon clan cultivators, ready to extinguish the approaching person. Just at that moment, Bloodwood's expression shifted slightly. It's him, the killer of the young blood spirit master. Hearing this, the other Rashomon clan cultivator was also stunned, his face filled with disbelief, and then he revealed a cold smile. Heh heh, interesting. He's discovered we're after him, and not only does he not flee, but he dares to come to us. Bloodwood's expression was also cold as he laughed, ignorant of life and death. Luya quickly stopped in front of the two Rashomon clan cultivators. Although they had taken on the appearance of the human clan, Luya's perception naturally wouldn't be mistaken. He scanned the two men, confirmed his targets, and immediately muttered to himself, I intend to slay these two Rashomon clan cultivators. Task: slay two Rashomon clan cultivators. Reward: 2 Rashomon tree seeds, low-grade Immortal device Sky Sun battle armor, a strand of power law, 1 piece of Star River blue gold. Accept the task, yes, no. 2 Rashomon tree seeds. Luya's expression was slightly odd. It seemed before his master returned, Luya just might have the chance to gather enough Immortal trees. Who knows if master will actually call him dad when he sees this. Without indulging in further wild thoughts, Luya simply accepted the task. Meanwhile, Bloodwood looked at Luya and coldly said, You are the human cultivator who killed our clan's prodigy. Luya smiled, now that you know, why waste words. Bloodwood and the other Rashomon clan cultivator exchanged a glance, killing intent appearing in their eyes, and the next moment, an immense surge of Qi blood power began to stir around Bloodwood. A column of blood-red light shot into the sky, and the terrifying air wave set off tremors, with mountains within a 100-mile radius shaking violently, many peaks crumbling to dust and vanishing. This formidable pressure even shrouded the entire Qingzhou, with all the cultivators in Qingzhou perceiving the dreadful aura and their faces changing dramatically. This is the aura of a tribulation-crossing ancestor. Why is there a tribulation-crossing ancestor in Qingzhou causing such a disturbance? What's happening? The many cultivators of Qingzhou looked terrified, knowing a battle involving a tribulation-crossing ancestor could plunge Qingzhou into utter catastrophe. It wasn't just Qingzhou. Strong cultivators in the eastern domain also felt the terrifying fluctuations in aura. Many great powers and ancestors from various Immortal sect holy lands looked towards Qingzhou's direction.